Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Game Over, another night of GDQ Hotfix speedruns for you tonight. This is a little different of a day. Normally, we do Game Over on Mondays, but we're doing a special Thursday show for you today. I am your host, Regal. I'm the host of Game Over. Game Over is a show where we like to put on speedruns of games that are either known for their high level of difficulty or games that are being played on a higher difficulty level than normal. And tonight we have a very cool run, very special run. It's a long one. It's going to be just one run for the whole show tonight. It's going to be Elden Ring Nightreign, solo glitchless any percent, run by Catalyst, who He might correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think he's the world record holder for the category. So I'm excited to see this. We've had some Elden Ring runs in the past, but we haven't had a full any percent run to showcase because it's a little long, but we have one for you tonight. Let's go ahead and throw it over to Kata, who can introduce the run for us a little bit better than me. Kata, can you take it away for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, Regal. Thanks for having me on the show. So I'm Kata, as was pointed out. I technically do have the world record, but also there have been some shenanigans with rules, so I would say not really. We just need to reflect it on the leaderboards, but that's semantics, doesn't matter. The point is that today we'll be running Elden Ring Nightreign, and as you said, it's a very special run because there are definitely runs or speedruns of roguelikes that have random seeds and they have randomization, and then you have a category split between set seed and random seed and stuff. But this game is special on two fronts because not only does it have this random element, but it's also for the most part on a timer. So I'll talk about that a little bit more as we get into the run. For those that do not know how Nightreign actually works, maybe you've only played Elden Ring, maybe you've played Dark Souls. So I'll outline that for you, but I think so that we do not start too late, we can get into the run, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, 1 a.m. gang, that's a good title, good name. Both of us are up late for this. Yeah, go ahead. Right. We're ready for you, Kata.
All right, so let's go in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good luck.
All right, so thank you. So any percent, you might be even questioning how is it possible to speed on Nightreign? There's credits that you can reach, and normally you reach them by beating Helster, who's the last Night Lord. So essentially the way this game works is that there are these expeditions that you can do, kind of Monster Hunter style, where you can choose a boss to challenge, and then you go through a cycle of 2 days and 2 nights, and then fight the final boss after that. I'm getting just ready here with some menuing and starting the first expedition. And to reach the credits, you have to beat the first I don't want to say tutorial expedition because it's as difficult as all the other ones, but you gotta beat the first one, and then you have to beat 3 more to unlock the final boss, and then you go beat the final boss, and that way you reach the credits. So that's sort of the progression scheme for the run. And now that we are in the first expedition, you can see that we are also playing as Iron Eye. So this game normally has 8 different classes, and 2 of them are probably the fastest. Holy, I just got headshotted as I jumped into this camp. Wow. Maybe that guy is the real Iron Eye. Oh my god. But yeah, so you've got 8 different classes. 2 of them are not even available from the start, so those are completely unavailable for any percent runs. And the remaining 6, 2 have a standout role, and that's Raider and Iron Eye, who I'm playing as. So they're both really good because they can both keep up their DPS. Oh, that's a nice bow. They can both keep up their DPS quite frequently. For Iron Eye, that's because he's an archer and has range, so he can keep on shooting. Meanwhile, for Raider, who's the other class, who's quite quick, but a little bit less consistent, he gets to tank a lot of hits. He's very, very tanky. He gets to ignore enemies' attacks and whatnot. So they can both keep up DPS, and that's sort of the key. So as I was saying, as I'm jumping into this tunnel now to try and find an upgrade stone, the key to this run is trying to get as much power as possible in these timed days before a night comes in. Because when the night comes in, that's when the boss will spawn. The first night boss and then another night boss after that. And killing them as fast as possible will start the next day, or will get us, access to the Night Lord, who's the basically the target of the expedition. So essentially, most of this gameplay here, like I'm, you know, right now getting kind of destroyed by these shield guys. They're wasting a bunch of my time. It's not the end of the world, because what really matters is if I can find a bunch of power and then use that power on the night boss. So what you'll see me do for the most part is trying to stack as many buffs as I can together and then use those before the fight. And that way get a lot of damage in very, very quickly.
Right. So generally, I would say like the majority of the time save that you're going to be accruing in the run is going to be purely from the boss fights themselves, because these days are like a certain amount of time, set length of time.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, it's that, and then the little points that you actually spend outside of the expedition, which there's not going to be a lot, but I will have to be buying some items a little bit later on, so I'll try to do that as fast as possible, for example.
And I noticed at the beginning, you already did something that saves like probably a good chunk of time. You did like a tutorial skip where you can just open the menu and just like skip the tutorial.
Exactly.
So there is some stuff outside of the bosses, but that's generally what the gameplay is going to be, trying to minimize the boss fights.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly right. And that's also another reason why in any percent runs you don't see people swapping characters, because any time that you spend outside is very precious, right? Like you need to get back to the expeditions as soon as possible. So you might think, okay, this is like, you know, 2.5 hour in-game time, almost 3 hour long run, real time. But the difference between a good and a bad run can be like maybe a minute, maybe like 30 seconds sometimes.
Yeah, that actually brings up a question that I'd have. So this game has these sort of like this meta progression outside of the runs where you pick up these like relics to enhance your character. Will there be any reason to equip any relics, or is that just not fast enough? Yeah,
they will. That's what I meant when I said I was going to be buying things. That's exactly what we'll do after this expedition. Yeah. So
interesting. Interesting. So we'll see that when we get to it.
Yes. Yeah. Like so, these relics, I'll mention exactly what they do later. But the meta progression only becomes available after this first expedition. So the first one we are doing without any extra bonuses, and then the next ones we will have some extra bonuses. Okay, so I just went to the merchant. I basically killed the pumpkin head in order to obtain the upgrade stone to upgrade a bow to level 2. So normally when you pick up a weapon and it's a base weapon like this Iron Eyes bow that I started with, it's white, right? But I can put it to, I can upgrade it to blue, to +1 using a blue stone, and then I can use a purple stone to upgrade it to +2. And that's what I did by killing the pumpkin head, and in the same tunnel I also found another stone to upgrade. That's basically gonna be kind of the start of almost every single match, just trying to get a purple stone and then running to the middle of the map towards the castle, because the castle is always consistent. It's always going to be there. It might have different bosses, or it will have different bosses. It will also have different enemies around. For example, here we're going to see Banish Knights. And the thing about the castle, the strat, is that it very consistently provides you with a lot of different resources. Like it gives you a lot of chests where you can find items. It also gives you a lot of enemies that you can get runes from. So you level up your character the same way you would in a Souls game, except you're not really choosing any stats. You're basically only increasing the level, right? So getting a higher level is important, but usually in these runs, runes are not that big of a problem because I have enough time to kill so many enemies that I will reach the max level 15. It's very important to reach at least 12, then point of diminishing returns kind of kicks in, and it's not as important to go past that. But hitting at least 12 is very, very important, but most of the time we'll hopefully hit 15 to not jinx myself here. But another good thing about the castle is that it also has a bunch of bosses, one in the basement and one on the rooftop, and those can give a lot of runes as well. And one big perk about Nightreign is that I'm not just benefiting from the items that I have equipped at the moment, right? Like I have a shield on my back and I have a bow in my hands that I'm shooting these enemies with, but all of the items that are in my inventory and they have some passive effects will be granting me these bonuses at all times, pretty much, with some few exceptions where you have to have the weapon equipped and stuff like that. So given that we almost always hit the max level, on almost every single match, on almost every single expedition, it is very important to try and find good items. And that's why the castle is so good, because it has multiple places where you can get quite a lot of items from these chests. Now, these are all going to be random. And so that means, you know, if I get lucky, which so far this expedition has been really good, I will find items that will give me a lot of extra damage. And then I don't really have to stress myself out too much. But if I get unlucky, even if I play super, super well, it does not really matter if, you know, I loot 50 items, only one of them is useful, then, well, I'm out of luck. That just sometimes happens. That's the nature of roguelike speedruns. And Nightreign is no different in that sense.
Yeah, and so, like, I assume, like, you get this bow and upgrade it just to clear this castle out, like, much faster. But you're probably looking to transition to a better one.
So that's a interesting point, because some of the highest scaling bows, so the way damage works in Elden Ring and in Souls and in Nightreign as well, is that you have some kind of a flat damage, right? That the weapon always has on it already, and then you have scaling. So the higher the stats, in this case, in Bow's case, it's dexterity, the more damage you're gonna get. And the better the scaling, the better the bow actually becomes later on, right? So you can have, like, let's say 50 base damage, but if the scaling is really good, you might end up on level 15 with like 160 damage or something. And another bow that starts at 70 but has worse scaling might start at 70 but then end up at like 120 at the end. Just example numbers, right? I'm literally pulling that out of a hat. So normally, the best scaling bows in this game actually are, well, funnily enough, the one that I have found, which is the Misbegotten short bow. Yeah, so it starts as a white one and it rewards you for upgrading it. However, the problem is that because it also is supposed to have a passive, if you find the purple bow, even if it has a little bit of less damage, as long as it has a good passive, it will be better, right? But this one has improved sorceries, and there's no guarantee that the next bow that I find is gonna have something useful. So I am actually, like, I lucked out already, and I got the best scaling bow, so that's pretty good. So usually I basically go for the purple as soon as possible for the power. It's exactly as you said, like the more power I have earlier on, the more power I can get quicker, if that makes sense, right? Compounding interest. And on top of that, though, like, I might already find the bow somewhere that is pretty good. And Iron Eye's starting bow is not the worst either. Like, it's not the best, but it's manageable to play with that one as well. So, like, worst case, even if I find nothing and I just have to settle for the starting bow in purple quality, I'll be fine.
Right, and this one you have right now is actually not bad for just like a starting bow. Like, you could ride this and be fine with it.
Well, this bow is the best scaling one, right? Like, I found the Misbegotten short bow, yeah. But the starting one, the Iron Eyes bow that you find, that one, I could deal with that for sure. Like, if I find anything, you'll see me just upgrade that one to purple and roll with it for the rest of the match. There will be some exceptions to it. I'll talk about that when the time comes in the next expedition. One thing that I also have to point out that is pretty important is that the castle is usually like a day 2 target for players to go to. It's usually pretty difficult. You can see that it's been kind of hectic with a lot of enemies. And I'm definitely benefiting from the extra damage that I have from the upgrades and from kind of being able to navigate around the targets. But most of the time, you only do this on day 2 when your level is already like quite a bit higher. But because it is just so rewarding to clear it early, to get as many resources, as many items as possible before the first night boss, I'll pretty much almost always go for a castle at the start. It does mean that it's a little risky. It took me some time getting used to it, clearing it as this class, but we will hopefully manage.
You can save a good chunk of time on that first, like, time check, which is the first night boss.
That's, exactly right.
Yeah,
exactly
that
right.
makes sense.
So we can hear the music has changed. We also saw the message that the night is already encroaching, which means that the boss is going to spawn down there. I can see that on the map. You can see I'm still only level 3, but I have also farmed 150,000 runes in the top right corner of your screen. So I'll be able to level up. I have to make sure that I go over a grace at some point. There will be one when I go to this side over here, so I'll be able to level up there, but I have to hurry up a little bit. So this is something that is very important. You can see the circles closing in, and the boss can spawn only once the circle reaches the final destination. However, before every night boss, there's always like a group of enemies that will spawn, group of mobs that you have to clear out. And the boss really only spawns... Whoa, that was insane snipe almost. The boss will only spawn once the pre-boss enemies are all dead, right? So what I have to make sure is that I get to this circle area soon enough that I can spawn the pre-boss enemies and kill them fast so that the boss spawns basically as soon as possible. So it's always, and then at the same time, I obviously want to maximize the time when I'm like killing other mobs and looting and stuff like that. So it's always a little bit of a balance between like how soon am I supposed to go to this final circle and how long I can actually wait. You can also see I went from level 3 to level 9. And now we'll make it to the circle and we'll be facing Barbarian Hunter. And you might be questioning like, how do I know that if it's a random game? Yeah, how does is this pre-recorded? Is this pre-recorded footage? I'll talk about that in a second when we get to the second day, where it's very important to understand how the patterns work in this game. But first, let's do the best that we can on this first boss fight actually. So you can see this is the pre-boss enemy group that has spawned. You can see the circle is still closing in when I open and close the map. And as I'm killing these enemies, I've collected a couple of buffs as well that are in my inventory right now. I'm missing one of them, one potential buff, but I have some of these greases that I can use. Those are put on a weapon and they add extra flat damage and sometimes also status effects. They'll be very important throughout the entire run. I'll always be focused on them. And then I also have Exalted Flesh, which is another important item, a so-called body buff, which gives me the extra physical attack as well. So as the boss is spawning in, I make sure to apply them. Then I get a hit because I couldn't see what the enemy was doing. And now if I'm lucky, I'll be able to try and get a little bit of a loop with a shield attack. See if that happens again. So far, not really. So I have to dodge a lot of attacks. Shield bash now, very nice. That has long recovery, so I always get to do 2 attacks over there. Then we get a stagger. Riposte, and okay, first boss dead. After I kill a boss, there's these trinkets that can drop on the ground. Some other enemies as well, we'll see that, for example, in the castle. They drop these trinkets, and out of these trinkets you can normally get both items and passive effects. But from the night bosses, you never get items, pretty much. You always only get some of these passive effects. And some of them can be very useful, like you might get extra physical damage, which is huge. Or because it's basically always active and it's free damage for you. Or in this case, I got this perk where sometimes if I'm attacking an enemy, there's a small chance that they will instantly die. It actually procced, you could see a little bit of yellow on that beetle there that I was killing for a talisman. And talismans are, you know, just extra part of the inventory. They give some passive bonuses as well. Before I talk about the patterns, as I'm running back to the castle to clear the Banished Knights and get some more loot, I also need to mention what my character does. So in Nightreign, every character has an ultimate. That was the big arrow that I used on the Bell-Bearing Hunter boss there. And it also has this other ability that you can call something like Q or whatever. Oh, I got the proc there again, the instant death. And what my Q does is, I'll showcase it on this enemy over here. I mark the enemy like this. I also have iframes during that dash, so it's great mobility. And whenever an enemy is marked, they take extra damage. And on top of that, they also, after a certain amount of damage dealt to them, the mark will proc. And when it does, it usually staggers the enemy. I'm getting very lucky with these instant death procs.
It's a very small chance, by the way.
Yeah, very small chance. Yeah, so you can see this guy is now marked. And the more I shoot him, the more damage I deal, the darker the mark is gonna get. And then once I deal enough damage, it procs just like that, and that deals even extra damage, and it's percentage based, right? So it depends on the max HP of the enemy, so you can deal quite a bit of damage thanks to that. And usually you also stagger your targets, so it's very, very, very good. That's another reason why the DPS is so nice on RI, that no matter how tanky the enemy is, like, you can do a pretty good amount of damage just with that mark. So, to mention some of these passives that I have picked up as well. Yeah, go ahead, Regal, please.
Well, I was wanting to, if you want to talk about something else before that, that's fine. But I was wanting to know, how did you know it was the bell-bearing gunner?
Yeah, it's very important to explain that as well. So, it's a great question. So, Nightreign is not actually purely random. You're not gonna get completely different seeds all the time. In fact, per expedition and per night boss, this time it's Gladius, it's that dog in the bottom left of the map that you can see, right? If there's no changes to the map, which sometimes can occur, we'll see that later, then there's only 20 different map patterns that you can get. So I'm obviously not going to be able to remember all 20 of them, so I've got this little a website open basically, where I can choose where I'm dropping from and choose some of the landmarks on the map, and then it can recognize which of the 20 it is. And I know basically exactly like what is in what camp in terms of bosses. I know which bosses I'll be facing. I know where I have to face them. I know who's on the rooftop as a boss here. And that's obviously very important in order to not just maximize your consistency, but at some points, you know, there are certain seeds that you just don't play. Like, they're just so bad, so you just reset and play again.
Yeah. Right. But to be clear, though, the items, though, are, like, totally random. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. That is precisely correct. Yeah, so right up here, we're going to have Deathrite Bird. This is always kind of annoying to play as ranged. We'll see how the fight goes. And then for the next expeditions, we're pretty much always going to have something active that's called Shifting Earth, which is basically a modification of the base map. So you have like some extra landmarks and whatnot. And when that is active, you actually only have 5 different patterns available. So it's like very, very likely, even casually, that if that Shifting Earth is active, you're just going to run out into the same pattern, that you've already played. I don't know why they chose to do it this way. I have 2 theories. It's probably a combination of both. I assume they just weren't really, From Software, the developers, that is, super comfortable with procedural generation. And at the same time, they also wanted to balance the game out, right? Because having a preset amount of patterns basically allows them to control what is on the map, and it allows them to make sure that there's a good balance of like high difficulty targets and easier targets for players to go against and stuff like that. So I think it was probably a combination of the two.
Yeah, I do wish there was a few more iterations for the Shifting Earth. It feels a little too samey sometimes doing that, I would say. Yeah,
for sure. I 100% agree. I'm getting some really good passives over here, this expedition. So, yeah, that's basically how I know where things are going to show up. I also know that, for example, it's Red Wolf in the basement, so I know I can go ahead and kill that. And another thing that you've seen me do so far is I have talked to this merchant and I have purchased some items from the merchant and stuff like that. So that's very important because the merchants can either have beneficial passives, or more importantly, they can have certain buffs that are quite powerful. Like this Blood Bowl Aromatic is actually one of the best buffs that I can pretty much get because it boosts physical damage by 35%. The downside is supposed to be that you take more damage while it's active. But like, usually the fight is over before anything like that can even occur, so I'll be using that for the second Night Lord, and I'll be using it, Night Boss, and then for the Night Lord after that as well, for the final boss. And what's interesting, the reason I mentioned this, what's interesting about it is that the merchants are actually also not random. So there's 21 different seeds for merchants, and that way you are able to basically predict, or not necessarily predict, but you are able to tell like, okay, this merchant is good or this merchant is bad And then the reason I mentioned predicting is because you see that there's this township over here on the map that has another merchant as well. And what's interesting is that the merchant seed, like the regular merchant and this special township merchant, they are connected always. So if you were to memorize all the different seeds, you can look at the regular merchant here, for example, at the castle, and know exactly what the merchant at the township is gonna have as well. Pretty wild. And now I don't have that memorized, so I'm not really really sure what's gonna be there, but yeah.
Drops are then pretty random, like totally random, but the merchants are not. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, the merchants have 21 different seeds, as I said. And again, I assume that's because of balance. Like, they wanted to make sure that, you know, all the different merchant offerings have, like, a decent balance of the different items that are there. Now, when it comes to this township, this merchant also specifically does have some items that are guaranteed. It's the same as the regular merchant, right? Like, a regular merchant always has a regular upgrade stone. Same with this guy. Like, this guy always has the +2 stone to upgrade a weapon to purple and stuff like that. But when you look at the lineup of, for example, these aromatics, those are randomized. These two physics are randomized. And then this lineup here is randomized. But only to a degree. Like I said, only 20 different patterns. Well, 21 to be exact. All right, so this is, he has some good stuff that I would like to purchase still. But as you can see, I'm kind of running low on runes. So what I will end up doing is I'll try to run to some of the open field bosses here. And get a little bit of money from that. There's also a good time to talk about the passives that I'm looking for. For most part, there's 2 damaging passives that I will try to find, and then 1 utility one. Besides other buffs, of course, but now I'm talking about just the passives on these items that you can have in your inventory, like different weapons and shields and stuff. So for Iron Eye, obviously there's ranged weapon attacks passive. That one doesn't really need much more explanation. Very, very good. Has no condition. Just as soon as I'm basically shooting, I will deal that extra damage, which is great. And then another thing that I'm looking for most of the time is attack power at full HP, because the hope is that, especially on the night bosses and the night lords, you know, the fights are gonna go so well and so quickly that I'm not really going to take damage, right? So that is a little bit conditional, but they can have some pretty nice bonuses as well, like in terms of the extra damage. And that's exactly what I purchased from the Township Merchant. I purchased the talisman that gives me 10% extra damage when I'm full HP. And then the utility one that I mentioned is projectile damage drop-off reduction. So basically, the further you are from a target as Iron Eye, the less damage you're gonna deal. But with this passive, you can mitigate that quite a bit. And this expedition so far, in terms of the items that I have been able to find, like, it's been insane. Like, I've been very, very lucky.
It's like all of your passives are just those things.
Yeah. So we have ranged weapon attacks. You can see on a blue rarity of a weapon, it's 10%. On a purple, I have a 14%, right? So it also, not only do I need to find the right passive, but I'm also always looking for... oh, I'm going the wrong way. I'm also always looking for... Should be looking for the right way, maybe. I'm also always looking for higher rarity to get better passives. But as soon as you get blue, like, it's kind of all right once you get blue. Then I have attack power at full HP here, right? So I'm stacking 14%, 14%, 10%. That's all multiplicative too. 10% from full HP, and then I have drop-off reduction 40% and 50%. So I can basically be quite far away from the target and still deal full damage almost. So it's been really, really good. What we are missing, however, and this is a good opportunity to talk about the different buffs that I'll be getting, is a so-called aura buff. So that has nothing to do with aura farming and other slang. That has to do with buffs that are normally shared to your teammates as well, because this game is not meant originally for solo play. It was meant to be a 3-player co-op, but they've made a pretty good solo mode as well, and that's obviously also what we are playing today. But so that's aura buffs. Then there's body buffs. Those are unique to every player. And then there's uniques, and you can only stack these different types, basically. You cannot stack like multiple aura buffs, for example. You can only have one body buff, you can have one aura buff, and then you can have, you know, as many uniques as possible, essentially. And then on top of that, there's these greases, which are weapon buffs, right? So I'm always trying to stack all of those if possible. And this game, I do have the body buff, the Blood Bowl Aromatic. That's huge. That's the best one. I have the greases, but I'm missing a consumable that will give me an aura buff as well. Now, there are certain items, certain weapons that can have an aura buff on them, but then that means I'm taking up one slot potentially for an aura buff instead of it maybe having a good passive. Now, obviously, if it has an aura buff and a good passive, I mean, well, then you've won the lottery. But right now, I wouldn't really want to replace any of these slots with an aura buff, because that usually is like maybe 10% extra damage. And like, I have that on pretty much every item already, right? So we are not doing too poorly in terms of the buffs and passive combination this run so far. It absolutely would have been nice to find some status effects. So status effects, maybe we'll get to see them throughout the run, maybe not. But that's usually bleed or frost. And what they do once you build up enough of that status on an enemy, there's another percentage damage proc, essentially. So bleed can be very, very powerful because you build it up and then you deal like, I don't know, 15-20% almost of damage in just one go. And there are certain items, certain weapons that can build up the bleed proc really, really quickly. And so, of course, if what we care about is the speed of the fights, getting many of these percentage procs is pretty good usually. All right, we're running to the circle here for the second night boss. We'll be facing Morgoth. So not only am I lucky with the items, but this is a good seed too. Demi-human chiefs could have been a possible boss fight on the first night, which would have been faster than Bell-bearing hunter. But Morgoth is a good night 2 boss. So we're really, really lucky with this first expedition. I'm getting a little worried for what's to come because, you know, Ishizaki, the director of this game, he giveth and he taketh. That's just how it is. So here I can also, there are sometimes there are these buffs from the environment. I'll definitely talk about that a little bit more once I'm at the castle again. But some of these bosses are going to spawn close enough to, for example, these wraiths, and they're just going to fire at the boss and deal a little bit of extra damage for me. So I make sure to activate them as well. And the boss, you can see there's water on the ground, so I'm going to use a lightning grease for this fight, not a fire grease, because fire would deal less damage, and lightning on the opposite hands is going to deal a little bit of extra damage.
Man, good damage. That is chunky.
Yeah, if you've ever played Nightreign, like, you know that this damage is kind of not normal.
Yeah. I imagine, like,
especially without the relics.
I imagine the aromatic helps quite a bit.
Yeah, like I said, it's 35% extra, so yeah, it's huge. Physical attack 9. There was glint blades, which are also quite nice. Maybe we'll get to see them later in the run. But 9% you just can't really say no to, like unconditional damage buff. All right, so this is the end of night 2. We are entering day 3. There's always this merchant before the night boss as well, or night lord. So sometimes you can purchase like exalted flesh from there if you've run out, for example. That's very, very useful. There's also grace so that you can level up, which I was able to do. Like, I was only level 14 for that boss, but that's because I spent like 42,000 runes basically buying one of those items from the township merchant. Now I'm level 15, the max level, as I said, and here is Gladius. So the big thing about this fight is that we will enter phase 2. I didn't manage to mark there, which is okay. Oh, I did manage to mark. So we are entering phase 2. He basically summons all of them to attack me, but I can deal massive damage just by ulting all 3 of them at the same time.
That was good. That was a huge chunk.
Yeah, so the huge AoE that Aranai's ability or ultimate comes with would normally hit the boss just once, but because in the second phase he basically splits up into 3 dogs, I'm just able to absolutely demolish him with a well-timed and well-placed hit.
Nice.
So that was the first expedition. That was quite good. That was quite good, my friends. All right, so now between the expeditions, I'm quickly gonna go ahead and buy some of this meta progression. Quickly set it up, put it into my chalice, and immediately I'm jumping into the next expedition. So that was quite quick on the menuing. I'll explain what we purchased as we get into the next expedition. So now multiple of them have opened, right? I get to choose a little bit. There's not that much choice, really, in terms of the order. But immediately as I open the map, you can see that something is changed, and there's a huge crater in the middle, basically. And that's one of the shifting earths that I was talking about. So we're gonna have this one for the next 2 games. And there's always at the, basically like in the shifting earth location, so in the crater here, there's always something a little bit special. We'll see a mountain later on as well. But for the crater, what you can do, there's a special forge, and you can use it to upgrade your weapon to legendary status. So it goes beyond just blue and purple, but it goes all the way to gold. And this is where it becomes kind of interesting when it comes to what I do with my bows, because I can basically upgrade any weapon to gold, even if it's white. So what I'll start doing is I'll look for a bow right here at the start, right? The same way I did last game. And then I'm going to upgrade it to purple. However, I will be clearing out the crater on the 2nd day. So if I find something better, I can just put it to gold straight away.
Would now be a good time to have a few announcements at the beginning of this expedition.
I'll just mention very quickly, if you don't mind, the relics that I purchased, and then absolutely. So I purchased 2 of them, and they don't seem like they do much. You can see them on the screen. It's the top one and the middle one. So I get 2 lightning greases at the start of a match, which sounds like, okay, well, 2 lightning greases. You've been finding greases left, right, and center, but it's very important to have these lightning greases. Oh, Miss Big on Shortbow, don't mind if I do. That is because both this Night Lord that we are going up against, Fulgor, and the next one, which will be Maris, they have a weakness to lightning. So if I get unlucky and throughout the entire expedition I don't find any lightning greases, which especially with Crater, you are more likely in this area to find fire greases, that would be a problem. So being able to start with them, huge. And then the second thing is that I get a 10% damage buff for 30 seconds after using a grease. And that stacks with everything else, right? So it's just an extra buff that I can basically layer on top of everything that I'll be stacking already. So those are the big purchases. We have found the Misbegotten Shortbow. Now I'll just be running to the southern tunnel this time. I'll be beating a troll for the purple stone. And Regal, this is your time.
All right. So if you're looking to get more involved with the GDQ community, you can join the official Games Done Quick Discord and add the hotfix role to stay in the loop on upcoming events, chat with staff, and more. Use !Discord in Twitch chat for an invite and more info. Also, if you want to catch up on past hotfix shows, special events, and GDQ marathons, go over to youtube.com/GamesDoneQuick. And if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay up to date with GDQ. And back to you, Kata.
Nice. All right, well, this is the southern tunnel, so I'm doing exactly as I said I would. I'm out of my word. First, I'm gonna kill this soldier. Enemies with shields can be very annoying for Iron Eye because they just keep on blocking. And normally with like other classes, you can usually guard break them, but not with Iron Eye. You don't really deal much damage in that regard, which makes sense, right? You have puny arrows, makes sense. Here's the troll. I'm gonna use one of the greases. I mark him, and what's cool about the trolls is that they have a weak spot on the head. You saw that with the Banish Knights already in the last match, where I was trying to headshot them as much as possible. This is me aiming on a controller, by the way. I don't know if it's impressive or not. That's up to you to decide.
It's impressive, I would say. Better than me.
Thank you.
For sure.
Yeah, luckily the headshots are like, it's not super important to get them all the time. So, you know, it's not like this game is dominated by keyboard and mouse players, at least not yet. Who knows, maybe one day. Oh, this is very interesting as well. I went here for the purple stone, right? But I got the purple stone from the troll here, guaranteed. And I also got the purple stone from the side room over there. So I technically don't have to loot this one. Kind of funny. We have Wraiths while walking. That is actually not a terrible passive. So this is one of the unique ones that I mentioned, where you will see the hand next to the Wraiths while walking sign or text. And that means that this weapon has to be equipped. Even in my offhand, for me to, that's enough. for that bonus to be active. And it's actually pretty good because normally when I manually aim as Iron Eye, like I did on the troll, that actually counts as walking. So I'll be summoning extra wraiths basically for a little bit of extra damage. There on the ground was Exalted Flesh, but you can see I only have 4 slots and 2 of them right now are taken up by upgrade stones, so I cannot really pick it up. It's good to know that it's there though, in case I need to go get it later on. And now we are approaching the castle from the south. We will have the same enemies sprinkled throughout. It's going to be Banished Knights again, which actually is my favorite castle probably for these runs. Oh, here are Uplifting Aromatics, just to interrupt myself. So this is kind of cool. It's the aura buff that I was talking about. Of course, the other aromatic would have been better because it's stronger. It's like literally best in slot. But this is better than nothing because there are aromatics that are basically completely useless for this run. And having that at the merchant always sucks. So this way, at least we have something useful. That's quite nice. But yeah, I like the Banished Knights probably the most because it's a kind of a good mix of like getting items and at the same time getting some runes. The other castles, we'll see if we get lucky enough to actually see them or not, or unlucky, depends on the perspective, I guess. Some of them can give more runes, like the Crucible Knights, and then there's also Trolls, and Trolls have some extra passives that you can get, but at the same time, like, Trolls are kind of annoying to deal with because they keep on throwing bombs at you. And now we can also see the power of the Wraiths, like I'm getting just for free, basically extra DPS. Pretty nice for clearing this particular castle out, and the Troll Castle as well, where I would be manually aiming. And I'm looking at the seed, and I can already tell. So, like I said, it's always important for the Night Lord, Night bosses to be good, right? You need to have bosses that are just not really super tanky. You need to have bosses that you can kind of clap. And there are fights, absolutely, that you can clap with enough damage from the passives and all the buffs that you stack and stuff like that. But then the problem is that, for example, it's a two-phase boss fight, right? There's Nameless King who can roll on this particular expedition, boss from Dark Souls 3. It's great at all, but you have to kill his dragon first, and then you wait for him, Nameless King that is, to jump down, and only then you can finish the boss, essentially, or fight the boss proper. And that, no matter what, is always gonna take longer than having a solitary single boss. But, as I can tell, we are getting very lucky because this expedition has got the best seed, actually. So we'll be fighting Wormface and Dragonkin Soldier on the respective knights, which is really, really good.
So is what is the, if any, consideration for the order that you do the Night Lords? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. So that's, oh, nice buff. That's passive. Absolutely, that's what I was kind of alluding to, that we have basically unlocked all of the expeditions now besides the final one. And I did say, oh, there's not really that much of a choice. And the reason for that is that these shifting earth patterns are guaranteed to show up, right? They serve basically like as a tutorial. So I have the crater for the next 2 expeditions, and then I'm gonna have the mountaintop for the next 2 expeditions after that. And it's very important to line it up so that Adele, an expedition we'll be doing later, who's a dragon, is active on the mountaintop shifting earth, because there's an anti-dragon bonus, excuse me, that you can find there, and well, that you're guaranteed to find there. And so it's important to fight that because you get a lot of extra damage that way. Oh, a little lag in the game, all good. But that also means that, okay, well, that's, you know, the 4th expedition. The 5th one is given, because that's the Hellster. You need to beat him to reach credits. And so that means technically only the 2nd and the 3rd expeditions can be shifted around. And they'll both be on the crater, and it means that you need to either do Fulgor or Maris 2nd, and, or 3rd, right? And there, it just depends on, like, what you feel is more random. Because you would think, okay, so like if one of these bosses, for example, right, even if it's the same shifting earth, they're gonna have different patterns, map patterns, different boss lineups and stuff. So maybe look at which one has more of a chance of screwing you over, less of a chance of a good pattern, and then do that one earlier so that you can reset earlier. But as things stand, it's pretty much 3 good patterns or decent playable patterns on both of them. And then, unfortunately, on Adele, who's the one who you cannot really shift around, there's 3 patterns that are bad and 2 that are good. So that's basically to the order. So we don't really have much of a choice in terms of the run. What's interesting, what I can also say, dude, these raids are overperforming. What I can say is that if you play Raider, you don't want to fight Maris, who's basically kind of a ranged Night Lord. Instead, you will choose to fight Libra. You don't fight Libra as Iron Eye because it's quite a bit slower. He's a tough one to crack. He's very, very quick as well. Meanwhile, for the ranged enemy, for the ranged Night Lord, you can pretty much just keep on attacking him for the most part, right? There's some tricky stuff to it, but it's relatively straightforward. Meanwhile, Raider, who's just basically a musclehead, yeah, he's not going to be doing anything when it comes to the ranged enemy. Just going to be waiting basically for a cycle to be able to try and attack him on the ground. So that's kind of an interesting difference in the routing. But other than that the choices are the same.
I tell you, when I played this myself, like, Libra is so much easier as Raider versus, like, any other class.
Yeah, it's crazy. You get pretty much guaranteed staggers and you deal massive damage on those as well. That's another reason why Raider is a pretty good class, because he can stagger quite a lot with his huge weapons, right? So you see that I do get staggers usually when I proc marks and stuff, but on the Night Lords and the Night Bosses, you're not really gonna see a lot of riposts unless it's something like guaranteed pretty much, simply because the fight is gonna be over before I build up enough poise damage, as it is called, to stance break them. But with Raider, it's different. Since you have such huge weapons, you are usually able to get some stance breaks, and then on the riposte, basically on the extra big attack that you do, you deal quite a lot of extra damage as well. But I also mentioned that, like, Raider tends to be less consistent, so you might be wondering why. Well, that's because you see that I always have to, like, upgrade a weapon. As Raider, you have to do it for 2 weapons, right? So it's not enough to just have your own starting weapon, but you basically need to find 2 decent Colossals and try to upgrade them as much as possible. Hopefully both of them to purple. So I know that the circle's already closing in. It's gonna be time for me to go. I'm gonna try to at least kill this Banished Knight on time. But I can hear the circle already coming in. He's almost dead. There he is. He drops a trinket. Let's see if we get something good. There's more wraiths over there. We don't really need that. And you can see I've managed to farm up a lot of runes this time, thanks to these wraiths and all the extra damage that I got just from walking around. So, as I said, the first night boss is going to be Wormface. There's quite a few Wormface seeds. Also here, I pick up the environmental buff that I mentioned. This one gives me 10% extra damage, physical and fire, for 2 minutes. So even though I pick it like quite a bit earlier before I fight the boss fight, if I clear the enemies quickly and the boss fight spawns, I'll basically be able to have it for the entirety of the boss fight. That's quite good. So sometimes I'll try to, like, depending on where the night boss is gonna spawn, I'll try to, like, hover around a certain part of the castle where this buff is and try to grab it before I go to the fights, like I did here. I managed to also almost hit level 11. Actually, very, very nice. We had a really fast clear. All right, let's get to the circle.
You got so many cleared out, and I think you, like, went to the castle, like, as the first, like, night was the first contraction of the circle. It's actually crazy how many kills that you managed to get in that amount of time.
Yeah, it's the wraiths. It cannot be underestimated. Like, that's why I said it seems to be overperforming, because usually, you know, it's not that common to find, even though we found 2 of them this expedition. But yeah, definitely don't sleep on it as Iron Eye. If you're gonna be manually aiming, of course. If you don't use that, then it's gonna be kind of pointless. But yeah, it was pretty huge. So, Wormface, there's a couple of seeds for Wormface, and you can see why it's the best boss, because he just kind of stands there and lets you shoot it. And yeah, that's the fight.
Well done.
So it's a little bit of a, like, it's partially also a gimmick boss, because if you're standing close to it, you have this status effect build up constantly, which is Death Blight. And once that is filled, normally with like Bleed, I was talking about this percentage damage that you would deal to enemies. Same thing for the player. Like if you get, you know, Bled proc, it's the same thing. But when it comes to Worm Face, as soon as Death Blight is built up, you just die straight up, right? So the gimmick is you're supposed to stay close for as long as possible and then go kill the enemies that are spawning alongside Worm Face, because they end up dropping a bolus, a consumable item, which alleviates the status buildup. But since we kill him so fast, it literally doesn't matter that we're standing like in the middle of it. So another attack summon Wraiths. That's funny. Alright, so now we cleared the basement again. That was Lone Iron Misbegotten. And I will go ahead and loot this chest. This chest is always guaranteed to have a talisman. There's not that many talismans that are great for Iron Eye, but hey, this is one of them, so I'll take it. One, yeah. Yeah, very lucky. So that one is the one that gives me the projectile damage drop-off reduction that I was talking about last match. And then there's also the same alternative for weapon, ranged weapon damage, which is very good because it gives you 14%, which is like a purple item equivalent. And then there's also the ritual sword talisman that I ended up purchasing, which you can also get randomly, which gives you that 10% extra of damage when you are full HP.
I feel like you haven't got as good of buffs as last time, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's correct. It's exactly correct. Yeah, that's how it is. But we still have an entire day, and we'll see what we end up getting. All right, here's this cool little parkour skip. I'll make it look way easier than it is.
Nice.
So this way I was able to get to the top of the castle faster than having to. Normally you're supposed to like take the stairs. There's a couple of skips to actually get up here, because unlike in Elden Ring, you are able to climb on the walls and stuff, as you have been able to see throughout the matches so far. But this one is kind of the fastest one from that position, at least. And it requires me to do a double jump on the wall and then basically kind of hover around the corner of the pillar. I can't go too wide or too close, otherwise it's not gonna work. And then from there I can just barely grab onto the rooftop. And yeah, it worked out just fine. Another thing that's kind of interesting is I'm fighting this rooftop boss on the second day. That means it has a little bit more HP, but it also gives me a little bit of more runes, so... It's a little bit of a trade-off. Again, doesn't really matter. You can see I'm already level 14, and we have an entire day, so that means two different rotations of the cycle still left. So we'll very comfortably hit 15 here. But as I was saying, that's usually not the problem. The bigger issue is actually finding, you know, all the worthwhile passives and all the different buffs. So right now I have used up my Exalted Flesh, so I need to find at least one more. We do have the 2 lightning greases. I used one earlier, but we found one to replace it as well, so that's good. I do have a fire grease as well, which will be useful on the second night boss, but I need to be a little bit careful. Can't really overuse the consumables right now. Sometimes when you have a really good match and you find a lot of consumables, you know, I would be able to use a consumable on this gargoyle, for example. Right now, I just have to deal without it, but the damage isn't too bad. So what's interesting about these shifting earth patterns, right, as we find ourselves in the vicinity of the crater, so many vending graces as well.
I know, that's like the third one.
So vending grace, just to interrupt my thought real quick, normally that's an item that allows you to be rezzed when playing solo. Because normally the way the game works is if you're in a group and you die, you don't actually die, you're downed like in a battle royale essentially, and your teammates can res you by hitting you, which is, you know, an interesting way to motivate your teammate to basically get off the ground, but I digress. The thing is, you don't have anyone to do that for you in solo play. So what they introduced is one passive res. Like I'll have that for basically every night fight, right? Whether it's a night boss or a night lord. And then there's these Vending Grace consumables that you can keep in your inventory, and they will get consumed if you die, and that they will res you essentially. So those are the ones that I have been able to find, and they're usually pretty rare. Like, you have it guaranteed from the merchant before the Night Lord, and from the regular merchant, also Township merchant. Oh, nice purple stone. But the fact that we've been able to find like 3 of them basically just laying on the ground is fairly lucky. Now, of course, I'm not going to be picking them up because they would just take up space, and like normally if you were to die in a fight, even just once, it's like, okay, well, you can probably reset because you're not going to beat your PB anymore. All right, found some extra consumables, I was going to say. Please go ahead.
No, I was just saying, even in like the first like patch of the game, like there wasn't even that passive res. Like they actually buffed the solo play a good bit with that first patch.
Yeah, that is correct. That is exactly correct. Like those, Wending Grace is out. He just finished his attack. Not a big deal, you know. A death is not the same as in like Elden Ring or something. I'm not gonna go ahead and lose minutes now because we got wrecked by a boss. I spawn right here. The only thing is I have to be a little bit careful because my runes now are on the ground. I lost a level, but I did not lose the runes that you normally use for that level, right? So basically my runes are now on the ground, and as long as I can pick them up without dying again, then I will be able to recover my level with ease as well. You can see them on the ground here to the left. I was a little surprised by the boss because he was in the middle of an attack and I interrupted it, and then he just finished it. Regal definitely knows this from Dark Souls 1 already. It's been in the games forever. Where like staggering the middle of a combo, sometimes the enemy can just finish it after they recover. Yeah.
Yep. That's a classic From Software feature.
Yeah, Ornstein loves to do that in Dark Souls 1. But yeah, I found some consumables, so I was able to use a grease before I died. And the interesting part that I was gonna say about the crater and all of these shifting earths, as they're called, is that these enemies here, actually, they're all guaranteed, though, right? So normally, the map patterns will dictate, like, which camps show up where, and they will dictate which bosses where, and also which night bosses show up. But inside of all of these shifting earths, all of this is guaranteed. So, like, I know that the Gargoyle is gonna be there. I know that Falling Star Beast is down here. I know what's at the bottom of the crater, because I have seen the depths of hell and whatever. But either way, I know also the item pickups, and I'll be trying to look for some of these better passives, basically, as I'm making my way to the bottom of the crater to that special forge that I mentioned. One cool thing as well is that every class has a passive ability. It's not just the Q and the ultimate, but you have a passive as well. And the passive of Iron Eyes is actually a chance to find better loot. So by that, I mean higher quality loot. So for example, a lot of these corpses that I will be looting, there's a chance for a legendary, and it's normally 5%, but it's a little tiny bit higher as Iron Eye. Now, legendary, to those that, you know, are not familiar with the game, might sound insane, but unfortunately there are no legendary bows in the game. Only a great bow, and the great bow is basically useless. So here, see, I found a legendary item. Nice. It's Sword of Night and Flame, which, well, used to be really OP on old patch of Elden Ring.
It's still pretty good in this game, I would say.
Yeah, it's still good. It's good in Elden Ring still as well, because they at some points rebuffed it. So they nerfed it very early on, like super early Elden Ring runs that I used to do. Some of you might have seen them because I did it at GDQ.
You might have used that weapon more than like anybody.
I think so. Yeah,
like, more than anybody in the world.
Yeah, it might be. That's why I've kind of come to hate it, because the gameplay is always the same, and some of the fastest routes in Elden Ring, any percent glitchless right now, use the weapon called Death's Poker, and the gameplay of it is like very similar to what you used to do with Sword of Night and Flame. So I'm like, I'm not touching that. Like I've had my share. You know, the youngsters can take over. It's fine. But yeah, as I was saying, there's only a great bow, dude. I'm getting so many legendaries. No good passives on them, though. So that's basically the only reason I would like to find a legendary, is for it to have a good passive. And unfortunately, the way the game works is that the passives on legendaries are not better than purple rarity items, right? So there's basically almost no difference for me finding a legendary or finding a purple item in terms of the bonuses. All right, so we are making it to one of the 2 golden fog walls in this entire game. One of them was already seen at the bottom of the castle, and this is the only other one. You have to kill this boss basically to progress towards the magma worm. Or do you? Oh, a little foreshadowing. Let's see what we get. More runes from defeated enemies. Completely useless for us since we already level 15. We have 200k as well. And when it comes to these passives, we've actually kind of stocked up. So I have Golden Wow on my weapon, which is an aura buff. Yeah, that's good. That gives extra damage and some extra resistance as well. Then I have attack power at full HP, drop-off reduction, and 2 ranged weapon attacks. So it's actually pretty good. Ow. 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 Sir, let me pass. Thank you.
Kat, would that be a good time to get some more announcements? Or
Yeah. That's actually a very good time.
Okay, great. Okay, if you're curious about what's coming up on Hotfix, make sure you check out this week's schedule and explore our full season lineup at gdq.gg/hotfix. Also, Awesome Games Done Quick 2026 will be live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania from January 4th to the 10th. Registration is open, so be sure to register if you want to experience the event in person. You can upgrade to a foil badge by November 1st. Visit gdq.gg for more info. And back to you, Kat.
Thank you. So I'm at the bottom of the crater now. I have to kind of hurry up because the circle's already going to be closing in. Or it already is closing in. And there's this magma worm that showed up. So that's the boss of the crater, basically. And in order to access that special forge that I mentioned, I have to kill him. We're doing pretty good. Arnai is actually very, very good against this particular boss because he takes extra damage to the head. And so I'm able to kind of blast him from up close. Yeah, I'm like so stacked up on these passives that I don't even need to pick that one up. All right, quickly. This is the forge. I upgrade my bow to legendary. You can see that it's yellow +3 now. So it has the highest damage that it possibly can. And now to get out of the crater, I'm going to use a Spirit Hawk for the first time. Or Spectral Hawk. And this will take me all the way up here, basically towards the night boss, where we will be clearing out the enemies and then, well, hopefully getting a quick kill on Dragonkin. I do have some decent power. As you said, I don't have the blood, as we said, I don't have the Blood Bowl aromatic that we talked about being really, really good. And the uplifting aromatic from the merchant, I only purchased 1, but thanks to the fact that I have Golden Wow, I do have the aura buff there. And then the body buff of the Exalted Flesh, then the Fire Grease as a weapon buff, and then Lightning Grease later. And then there's also 10% after using a grease. So we'll be stacking all of that, plus this environmental bonus that you know from the castle already that is guaranteed to be here as well. So it's gonna be quite a lot. We'll see how it goes. The Dragonkin can be kind of tanky. He has a second phase as well where I kind of have to peace out. I have to go a little bit away because as he transitions, as a lot of bosses in in Elden Ring do, they love to explode. So I'll have to make sure to get out of the AoE. But that's another reason why RNI is good, right? Because I can just still keep on attacking despite all of that. Only one mob remaining before the fight. This priestess. Somehow I didn't stagger her with my mark proc there. That can sometimes happen if the enemy is in like a weird animation that doesn't have it coded properly. Alright, stack the aura buff, body buff, fire grease. I'll again start by marking the enemy. And then blast him with my shotgun attack. That's one thing I haven't really talked about is RNI has 2 different modes of attacks. That's headshot there. Oh, he's doing an attack before the phase transition. That's interesting, RNG. So So as I was saying, there's two different attacks, basically. And one of them is an R1, which is the regular single shot. And another one is an R2, like a heavy attack. And that's the one that I keep on doing when I'm shooting 3 different arrows. That's actually more damaging in terms of DPS than just spamming R1s, but you have to be really up close to the target, right? Basically, serves as a shotgun. That was actually a really good fight overall.
Yeah, you got him before you even did the base transition.
Yeah,
because of that attack. That
managed to get some really nice headshots. That's why I stood like in front of him, trying to be locked on, and then when using the shotgun, I ended up getting some hits to the head, basically for free. All right, so here comes full gore. The reason that I want to have lightning against this boss is because he has this attack that normally is pretty much uninterruptible. Not quite, but almost. And the only way to do it is to actually have lightning on your weapon, so... He also ends up taking more damage. He is not giving me really comfy RNG. Okay, we'll interrupt him here. He's probably gonna go for the attack. There it is. I interrupted thanks to the lightning. Yeah, we'll have to remark. Instead of rolling this attack, I'll ulti through because you have iframes on your ultimates. He's staggered. One more riposte. Mark should proc on this one as well, and that's done.
Nice, quick. I like it. It's to stand back up.
Yeah.
Nice. That's classic From Software feature right there as well.
Yep. The hard attack. All right, well, that was the second Night Lord. Went pretty all right. Could have been a little bit better in terms of the RNG at the start, but not much you can do about that. And I think this is the time to take a break.
Yes, we are going to go to a short little break, about 5 minutes. So if you want to get up and get a snack, use the bathroom, stretch, take care of yourself, now's a good time to do it. Hello, everyone. Welcome back from a break. Thank you for sticking around. We have Kata running Elden Ring Nightreign any %. Kata, you want to take it away from us? Get back to the run.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome back. We can start the timer again. 3, 2, 1, go. Let's not waste any time. The Europeans have places to be, and those places are the beds.
Yes.
All right, so that was the second expedition. We are now immediately hopping into the third one. This one is going to be against Augur or Maris. It's like, it's always a little bit weird calling the night boss or something because there's a name for the expedition and then a name for the boss itself, right? So, he's technically called Maris in the expedition, but then his name in the game is actually Augur, and so it's like, what do you call him? And but it is the same
Whatever my brain wants to call it. It just kind of, there's no consistency, you know.
Yeah, I have it the same.
Whatever it's like, my brain has decided that that's your name.
Yeah, that sounds about right. The only exception is I always used to say Tricephalos because it sounds pretty wicked, and now I just say Gladius for that first dog that we fought today. All right, so as you can see, we have another crater. That's the second one out of the 2, as I mentioned. Again, same gameplay as at the start. That's because that's just the roguelike nature of it, right? Like every match pretty much starts like this, and then usually you kind of choose some targets to go to. Ooh, very nice. So this is a very cool camp to actually have as a beginning because it has these perfume drops that you can potentially get. And I got 3 uplifting aromatics, so it's not blood boils, which we would have loved to see, but we have a chance to get them still because there's a township on this seed as well. So that's the second bigger merchant that we saw on the first expedition, right? So that means we still have a chance that this is a pattern that has them somewhere. A merchant pattern, that is. So one thing that I also need to mention that I did already on the previous expedition but didn't really talk about is that there are some places around the map that have a guaranteed bow rack, like for example this tower over here. It's always worth it to go check it out and see what is up, because you might get like something with a decent passive, because it's a little bit more likely to roll on a bow or a ballista or a great bow. But oftentimes you also just find like an upgrade of a bow, basically, whether it's a better white one or sometimes you get lucky and you actually find a decent blue bow. and then you don't need that first blue stone to upgrade to purple because it's already blue. Problem is that some of those bows do not scale as well, so you always have to make sure that you actually get a bow that is worth upgrading. This time around, we did find a good passive, but we did not find anything else to use so far. So it's looking like for the first day, I will simply be upgrading the starting Iron Eye bow, which is what I was mentioning. We found the regular stone on the ground. This is kind of interesting. So there's also an Exalted Flesh. I'll pick up the regular stone over the aromatic, because you can only stack 2 of them into one slot. So the third one was there solitarily, and I know that it's here in case I absolutely need it somehow. And there's a chance that because it is an aura buff that I'll find a replacement for it, whether on an item or maybe a merchant is gonna have it or something like that. So simply we just leave it there. For now, at least. The reason I want to pick up this this blue stone is that buying it from the merchant, it costs 6.5k runes, and usually that means that I cannot actually get level 4. It's always nice to actually have a level 4 at the start. Dude, it dropped again from the room as well. That's insane. What is happening with this run? This is some giga-blessed GDQ luck.
I always love the extra item discovery runs. I don't know if that's like good, but like I have like a soft spot for getting the item discovery passives.
Yeah, they do increase your chance of finding a better rarity. And for example, on that bow rack that I just looted, right? That's a guaranteed, basically, set of items that you're gonna get. However, what isn't guaranteed is whether it's gonna be 2 or 3. Like, it's 2 at the minimum, 3 at the maximum. And the more item discovery you have, the higher chance that you get those 3 items instead. So that can also be very, very useful. You can do the same if you're playing a caster. There are places where you can find the staff, guaranteed, and being able to find, you know, 3 of them there and gives you a much higher chance of actually finding some good spells. So there from the corpse, I actually ended up getting a longbow, which scales better than the starting Iron Eyes bow. So that means I'll be switching to that, and I'll be using that for the first day. We will see if, you know, we find something better later. It might be possible to upgrade it to purple. Oh, Blood Bowl aromatics. You love to see it.
Nice.
That is fantastic. Okay, I'm not gonna buy them yet. We have to make sure that we buy them before we go to fight the boss. And we have a different castle this time, as you can see. We have a Crucible Knight castle. So these guys can be very annoying to fight as Iron Eye because, well, they have a shield. I already outlined how annoying shield enemies can be. But these guys are also, on top of everything, very, very tanky. However, it is also reflected in the amount of runes that you're gonna get. So I'm gonna kill, like, way less enemies here than, way fewer enemies than on the Banished Knight Castle, but I will get better rewards for it as well. My strat is to try and stay up close, potentially strafe some of these attacks, just like that. And most of the time, I'm trying to hit the shield, so he does a shield bash after that, and then I can strafe that. That's the shield bash, and then punish it with a shotgun attack. The other type of Crucible Knight that is going to show up is Siluria. Well, I call it Siluria because that's the name of the boss in Elden Ring, but it's the Spear Crucible Knight, basically. These ones can also be very dangerous. Like, obviously, everything here is going to hit very hard if I do get hit. But since they do not have a shield, they are not as annoying to deal with.
I see that Ordovis's great sword running around, and I like well, it's so bad as a Wilder player.
Yeah, they have a random chance to basically... That's probably because of the item discovery that we ended up getting it. But they have a chance to drop their weapon or their shield. And that usually, you know, for this run doesn't matter. Unless, again, there was a good passive on it, right? Then we would be like, okay, that's great. Alright, so I killed these. We have quite a bit of time still. So I'm gonna jump over to this side. I'm gonna kill this Crucible Knight and then go for the triple chest that we have already seen me loot twice. He's not really shield bashing, but there it is, okay. And what I found as well is I found Sacred Order, which is a very interesting item to explain. That's also the thing that I mentioned at the very start of the stream before the run even really began, where I was talking about certain changes. They actually pertain to the Sacred Order buff, because the way it is implemented is quite strange. So we would count it as a unique nowadays. And it has two different effects that it actually provides you with. First one is a flat 10%, well, just 10% damage buff to everything. It buffs your weapon damage, it buffs your abilities as well. But then it has a second part as well. As you can see me now running outside of the circle, so I'm continuously taking damage. I do have 3 health pots, so I'll heal and see what we can find over here. I don't have Exalted Flesh yet, so I'll make sure to grab that. Magic attack power, Shattering Crystal. I'd be very happy about that on a different day, in a different game mode. All right, back into the circle, back into the castle. So it gives that 10% damage buff, but also what it does, it gives you 100% extra damage against undead enemies. So that's, for example, Deathrite Birds. We saw Deathrite Bird earlier in the one of the previous matches at the top of the rooftop here. But the problem is that basically the unique 10% damage buff is only active as long as the weapon itself is buffed, which means that I essentially have to keep it equipped the entire time, right? Not my main weapon. I mean, I will have my main weapon, of course, but the weapon that has the Sacred Order buff on it. So as soon as I like get rid of it, as soon as I toggle off of it, or even if I two-hand another weapon, that undead bonus is gonna go away, and so is that unique passive. So that's kind of where the point of contention was, like, does that mean that it's a glitch, or like, are you basically applying a weapon buff, and then on top of that you can apply a grease on your main weapon, so you're stacking 2 weapon buffs? Like, what is this thing, right? So we really have to like dig deep into the code to figure out that, okay, they've changed it a bunch of times in Elden Ring, and the current implementation has 2 different effects, and one of them is directly tied to the weapon, and the other one is not tied to the weapon. It applies to all of your damage. However, it will stop being active if the weapon is unequipped. So that was a pretty lengthy explanation for something that isn't that important, but it's the first time that we picked it up, so I thought it would be worth mentioning. I haven't used it yet. I will use it on the next boss that I'll be fighting, of course, but I'll also use it on the rooftop, where I'll try to go and kill the boss that is there after this Crucible Night.
So it has been determined to not be a glitch, is what you're saying?
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much.
Understood.
And so we are playing originally under the assumption that it is, and that's where, you know, my record is, like, I don't use Sacred Order in that run, but there are faster runs by Alt F4, very talented Japanese runner who has used Sacred Order, and they were so far under the unrestricted category, but they will be carried over to glitchless. Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. So here I will
day 1 top boss.
Yeah, should be possible. I think so. We'll try. So now you can see I have this mace in my other hand. Okay, never mind. We'll have to abandon the mission. I ultied as well.
I was gonna say, this is gonna be crazy.
Yeah, I did a little bit too many of the Crucible Knights because I was trying to explain the Sacred Order and I didn't want to fight this guy. That's no problem though. I still got most of the stuff that I wanted done, so.
But that damage still applies for the next day, correct? Or will it revert?
Yeah, it should. It should. There have been cases, absolutely, that I have encountered where the bots healed overnight, but it's usually pretty rare. Like, most of the time it doesn't happen. So that damage that I dealt, as you said, what the? Excuse me? That damage, as you said, should be there for the next day as well. Yeah, so you can see I have this mace. It's not lit up anymore in my inventory, or sorry, in my hand, left hand. But I have this mace right now that I will two-hand. I will apply the buff, and then I will make sure to keep it one-handed in my left hand while I'm one-handing the bow in my right hand. That doesn't change anything to the bow, but it does apply the 10% unique buff. Okay, I need to make sure that we get over to the Grace over here, because we are level 4. We haven't leveled yet, ever since the start. There's also Golden Wow that I have, but I'm gonna use the Uplifting Aromatic first, probably. Or actually, we'll see. I might just use Golden Wow. They're about the same in terms of the percentages of increase of my damage. However, later on, if I still have 2 of these Uplifting Aromatics, I might be able to find something good and then just drop this, you know, skill FP cost passive and Golden Wow thingy. It's not going to be that important. So yeah, I think I'll end up using Golden Wow first. Alright, waiting for these mobs to spawn. We'll be fighting Valiant Gargoyle. This is another very decent seed. I have to say that this one, somehow, some way, I haven't played that many times in my 80% runs. Just haven't gotten it that many times. A few times. I've practiced the seed as well. Tried some routing and stuff like that. But we'll be fighting Valiant Gargoyle, which we have seen in the crater already. And Valiant Gargoyle is actually a pretty decent target as well. Now, the best class for Valiant Gargoyles would be a Sorcerer, because they are weak to magic. So any kind of Magician would do really, really well. But the nice thing about Iron Eye is that the Gargoyle... Oh, this guy is still alive. The Gargoyle's mortal is quite wide. And so even for quite a bit of a distance, my top R2 can still hit. 1 buff, 2 buff. I'll pop the Aromatic. Pop a Fire Grease. Okay, well, that Scream does nothing. Oh, AoE hit me. Is no problem. Because I needed to wait for the Gargoyle to kind of come back anyways. Remark, get the Riposte after that. And probably one more shot should do it. There it is. Alright, that was as good as it gets in terms of execution. Like, even though I got hit by the AoE on the ground, it didn't really matter because I don't have any bonuses at full HP. And right after that, I needed to wait for the Gargoyle to jump away and run back in. So it wasn't a problem that I got hit there.
Very stylish mark before the crit. That was very cool.
Thank you. Yeah, that was nice. It's interesting because the way Ripostes work in Elden Ring is a little bit different than the way they work here in Nightreign. In Elden Ring, normally, if you keep your combo going, you essentially will just keep on attacking, right? If you keep on spamming R1. But in Nightreign, you will immediately get interrupted and get the riposte if you are in position. And the reason for that is, unlike in Elden Ring, during a riposte, the enemies don't have iframes, so that your teammates can still keep on hitting them. And so it's not really that big of a deal to like take a riposte a little bit earlier than you would want to. However, this kind of like almost vacuum in a way also applies to, like, for example, being in a skill, like when I use the mark. So I was able to basically do the mark backwards and inwards and then just spam R1, and because I was in position, I ended up getting the riposte. I'm gonna kill these gravity dudes because they're very, very annoying. And then I'm not gonna bother with this Crucible Knights because the only thing that he's gonna drop are runes, and I'm gonna be able to get level 15 again, so it's no problem. All right, got the skip again. Very nice. This time I do not really have a grease that I would like to use because, especially against Maris, it is important to keep these lightning greases. What is he doing? What is happening?
Took a time out. I had to think about it. What is he's still like kind of running away from you?
He's taking a 5-minute break. He missed ours.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, it's late in Europe, man.
That is totally fair, yeah. I respect Tree Sentinel for showing up. Not just on 1 day, but on 2 days.
Yeah.
Alright. 2-parter, we did it. Didn't really get anything out of it, unfortunately. We have Ancient Hero of Zamor at the bottom of the castle, so I'll go for that as well, for that guaranteed talisman drop after that, and potentially Zamor can drop something as well. This is also another game where you will see me killing these jellyfish. You might be wondering why I'm doing that. I don't have hatreds for sea monsters. I do it exactly for this job, so it's a 5% chance, a little bit higher with Iron Eye's passive, but this is a unique buff that gives you a damage boost to everything, basically. And it stacks with everything, this jellyfish shield, so it's free like 10% damage extra, basically. Of course, if I find something better, if I find something unconditional, something I don't have to use, like ranged weapon attacks or whatever, and my inventory is full, then I'll be happy to drop it and replace it. But as things stand, as my inventory isn't filled with beneficial buffs yet, I'm very happy that I got that one. Zamor's gonna go for a face transition. That means I'm gonna get up close. Get some extra attacks. Big AoE, that's not gonna save him. It's gonna delay me a little bit though, because it stays active even after his death. Let's see what he dropped. Pulley bow has the exact same scaling as the bow that we already upgraded, so that doesn't really matter. We didn't really get anything there. Alright, there's gonna be another Crucible Knight here. Yet again, I'm gonna ignore him because the only thing he drops is runes. So I'll just run right past him. Oh, another effective wrench out of this. 2 in a row. Very good. So the effective range buff, like, it obviously depends. Like, some bosses you see, like with Fulgor, I was basically trying to stay as close as possible. And so in that case, it really doesn't make that big of a difference to have that buff. But for Maris especially, it is huge because he's always hovering around, right? We'll be fighting the sea monster underwater basically. So he's always floating around, always swimming around. And having that reduction of the drop-off is huge. That's very nice. Very good talisman. Yeah, so we're done with the castle. There's that township down south. I kind of want to check it out just in case there's something really good. Maybe it's worth it to kill this one Crucible Knight, but now the circle's already coming in. And we already have Blood Bowl aromatics, so I think I'm just not gonna deal with the township this game. Feel like I'd be a little bit too late for everything. That's this little thing down there. Especially since I wanted to kill the Crucible Knight just to get some extra money for potential, you know, purchases there. But alas. I should probably just abandon this quest and just not kill the Crucible Knight, but now I'm falling to the sunk cost fallacy, so I'll just finish him. I might as well. And yeah, let's head up north and let's do something similar that we did last time as well, but this time I'll do it a little bit different. I normally probably wouldn't, but I kind of want to showcase some things as well that are possible in the game. Galgol is politely waiting for me to buff. You'll have to see it. Very polite PvP player, I bet. One thing that also has to be pointed out is, like, if you've played only Elden Ring and you see me use the bow, you're probably like, what is happening? Like, why is the bow so good? Well, that's because Iron Eye has a unique moveset for the bow attacks. Like, every other class has just a regular moveset that you probably know from Elden Ring already, and probably hate from Elden Ring already. It's usually very, very bad. But Iron Eye kind of dominates. Another Rending Grace. Also Black Bow, that's actually beautiful. That's the 3rd highest scaling bow. So that is an upgrade from the longbow that we had. Very, very nice.
One thing from Elden Ring bows that I do miss in Nightreign is the how quick you can just rattle off jump attacks with the bows. In this game, there's like a little bit of a delay on the landing.
That is a good point. Yeah, you are not really able to reposition in that way because, like, you can do a jump attack, but then, you know, you land, and you saw that there was quite a long time where I wasn't able to really do anything. So that kind of play is not possible. With Iron Eye, not really a huge deal because you just shoot and then you can do a surge sprint to reposition. Right, that's the super sprint that you have in Nightreign. But for the other classes, yeah, it basically makes bows kind of unusable or anything besides Iron Eye. Except if you find a bow with Barrage, which is one of the Ashes of War. And that one is still pretty good. The same way that it is good in Elden Ring, it is good in Nightreign as well. Not good enough to use instead of the regular Iron Eye moveset, but for the other classes it would be useful. But the thing is, like, other classes generally will not find that many bows, except if you go to those guaranteed spots. Oh, dude just staggered himself by running into the pillar. That's funny. Because every class is basically, they have something called dormant power, and that helps them find the weapons that they're kind of supposed to be playing. So for example, someone like Duchess, who's supposed to be a thief, but you can play it as a caster, and it's actually a better caster. Maybe a bad example, but she finds daggers. Someone like Guardian, he's usually using halberds, so you are more likely to find halberds and stuff like that. Okay, this is very, very interesting now. So I just found Rivers of Blood. I kind of want to use it. So Rivers of Blood, if you don't know, it's a pretty infamous weapon from Elden Ring originally, of course. On old patch of Elden Ring, it was very broken. It dealt so much damage, it had insane bleed buildup, and its Ash of War was just, yeah, broken. And it's somewhat ranged as well, right? It's a katana, but it's Ash of War, it's skill. You deal it from a range. So you don't even need to be right next to the target to use it, essentially. Well, the thing is that this game is actually built on some old version of Elden Ring, and some things are different, like some things are kind of patched out, and some things are not. And things like Rivers of Blood are using the old version, so it's insanely, insanely strong. And the weapon scales with Dexterity, and Dexterity is also the strongest stat for Iron Eye. So it's actually a pretty viable choice to use. And I think I'll use it just... I feel like it's going to be beneficial on the next night boss anyway, because a lot of my buffs are actually not ranged weapon attack based, but they are just, you know, basically overall damage boosts. So I will benefit from them by both using a bow and using a melee weapon as well, like that. So I think it will be good on the next boss, and I also just want to showcase it. I think it's going to be pretty cool. Yeah, on some expeditions, it can be insane. For certain Night Lords, it can be super, super fast. And so I'm excited to try it. Of course, I'm not going to be able to use it for Maris, because Maris does not bleed. And also, I need the range for him, as we are outlining. Someone like Raider does not normally fight him, right? So, but yeah, that's very cool. It's very cool. I'll have to pay a little bit of attention to my buffing routine and where I place everything, because that can sometimes get a little complicated. All right, I killed an extra boss, and now, last expedition, we saw what I had to do to get to the bottom of the crater to get myself a golden bow. And now I'll show you a cool little skip to bypass all of that. It's an Iron Eye special, thanks to my Q. I have to find the spot. It's right over here. I'm gonna surge sprint in this direction, curve inside, and then just as I'm about to land, I Q, and I make it all the way to the magma worm, just like that.
Super, super cool.
So all of the fire prelates and that golden fog gates, you know, where I gave you that little bit of foreshadowing, yeah, all of that was just skipped. Circles closing in. I don't think I want to use a grease, because I only have 3, and I'd rather keep 2 of them for Maris, because that fight might be a little bit longer depending on some RNG. Couldn't get the interrupt before he started crawling around, unfortunately. I have double Exalted Flesh. I can use one of them here. Then I'll use one for the night boss, and then I can buy more of them right before the Night Lord. Another Rivers of Blood.
Another one? Improved attack power when two-handed?
Yeah, we're definitely getting that one, because then we'll be able to actually benefit from them. However, I will gold the bow, because that is going to be a little bit more important, I think. All right, take the Spectral Hawk again. There's another little trick that you can do with him. Unfortunately, I'm not able to showcase it here, but you can take control of the Spectral Hawk, and above the lava, you can kind of use these... I would assume that probably the hot air to get some extra height. I'm not sure if it's intended. I don't really think so, but you can get to like the gargoyle, for example, using the Spectral Hawk, which normally shouldn't really be possible. All right, that aside, though, we have made it to the boss. We're fighting Godskin Duo. And Godskin Duo can... Yeah, that's why I think... You know, it's a duo fight, so you're dealing with two enemies, and that's why I wanted to take Rivers of Blood, because another thing that I didn't mention is that the Ash of War on it is actually an AoE as well. So if I manage to line up the enemies properly, I'll be dealing damage to both of them. That could be really huge. Yeah, otherwise, when it comes to the damage of my bow, it's not very good. Like, I do have some good buffs overall, but nothing specifically for the bow. That's how the weapon looks.
Would now be a good time to get some more announcements, man.
I think I want to do this fight, and then we can go for it before the next Night Lord.
Okay.
That's okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll be two-handing, so I cannot technically use... I cannot technically use Sacred Order, which is fine. Use the Uplifting Aromatic. We'll two-hand this, apply one of these greases. Q. Okay, I ended up getting hit a few times. I got downed, okay. Playing a little too aggressive over here. Let's calm it down. But there's the damage that I was talking about. Like, look at this. Use the mark to get out of there. I'm gonna use my ulti, try to hit them both. Boom, there's the double hit. Mark, unfortunately, he dodged it like a pro. You can see just one part of that Ash of War triggers bleed. Like, it's insane. Okay, now I'm out of FP, so I will... mana, that is. So I will switch to a bow and finish this fight off. Hopefully. Okay, there we go. I was a little too close for comfort, but hey, we clutched it out, so...
I wasn't sweating it.
Yeah, just casually losing like 40 minutes of an expedition.
Well...
All right, hit us with the announcements.
Okay. So, Black in a Flash is a community that uplifts and connects Black speedrunners of all levels, hosting special events throughout the year to raise money for charity and celebrate Black voices in the speedrunning scene. Learn more or apply to get involved at gdq.gg/BAF and follow at blackinaflash.bsky.social on Blue Sky for the latest updates. And back to you, Kata.
Fantastic, perfect timing. So we are just about to enter this fight. I made sure to do all of my buff routine before I spawn him so that I can get as close as possible and start blasting the boss as the fight is basically starting. That was a very nice extra damage that we managed to get there. I'll try to mark him over here. That AoE is kind of hard to dodge. Not really a huge deal, not a big problem to not dodge it. Right, so he's doing this annoying sleep attack. If I get lucky, I'll be able to interrupt it. Nice. I was able to build up enough damage. Proc the mark as well. Now he's gonna face transition. That doesn't deal any damage to us, so we are just able to keep on attacking. Unfortunately, I missed the mark. I should have tried to jump there. This is kind of the annoying part about this fight is that because he keeps on floating around, hitting the mark can sometimes be very, very difficult. Okay, keep on hitting. Oh, we got a stagger, huge. I can also kill this blob. That's gonna deal more damage to the target as well. And then with a riposte, I'll be able to finish the fight off as well. Nice! All right, that wasn't too bad. That wasn't too bad. So that big attack that was happening there, basically, that I got to interrupt, one of the risky moves that I did is I used my ulti on Godskin Duo. Usually I want to keep ulti for that particular attack to have a guaranteed interrupt, because if I don't manage to interrupt it, what's going to happen is that I'm going to fall asleep. And, well, when I'm asleep, I cannot be damaging, right? Which means I have to just wait, basically. I'm not going to die to it, but I'll have to wait for quite a while before I'm awake again for several seconds. So you want to try and do your best to interrupt that attack. And luckily, we managed to deal enough damage, so the ulti actually wasn't needed. All right, well, we are jumping into our first mountaintop pattern, immediately into the 4th expedition. This time it's Adele. That's the dragon that I mentioned. That's why we want to do him 4th. That's why we want to have this mountaintop. As I said earlier, in case you forgot or you haven't caught it, I don't mean Urigo, I just mean the viewer, of course. There's an anti-dragon bonus that you will get from the mountaintop, so that's why we want to make sure that this expedition is done 4th. And the reason that we know there's going to be a mountaintop is because this kind of all serves as a tutorial still. So all of these shifting earths are basically triggered during your first playthrough when you're getting through some of these first expeditions to kind of teach you how they look and stuff like that. And then, of course, a lot of the replayability comes from the fact that you are always pressed for time when playing casually. And so you don't really have enough time to like clear everything out on your first go, and the replayability comes from, you know, having to do it again to kind of see everything that there is to see. We have a southern spawn, so you know what that means? That means we're gonna go to a troll. What's interesting, though, is that we are talking about item discovery. I have gotten the Silverfowl Foot from that starting camp, which actually boosts my item discovery a little bit for a minute. And so I'm going to use it before this bow rack, and that actually gave me 3 bows because of it. Very nice. And one of them is the Albinaric Bow, which is the second best scaling. There's the Misbegotten Short Bow as well, which is the best scaling. And then there's a Composite Bow, which is also pretty solid. I cannot use all of them. I do not have that many hands. But I can go ahead and use the Albinaric Bow for now, because it's blue. And then we'll see if I end up getting a blue stone. Then I would upgrade the Misbegotten Short Bow, because it's the best scaling one. And if I don't, I might just go with the Albinaric, because that's the number 2, and that way I would save a little bit of extra money. We definitely drop the Iron Eyes Bow. We don't need the Short Bow. That's a nice passive. We also don't need the Composite Bow, because the passive on it is not good. I can get rid of it. Critical hits, sure, can take that for now. Improved sorcery is really not our forte. So here I'm kind of free to use all of the greases. Like I can use the 2 starting lightning greases. I can use the fire grease. That is because the dragon is also like filled with lightning, and as you know, dragons usually spew a bunch of fire. So he's resistant to both fire and lightning damage. So actually what I would love is if you were lucky enough and managed to find a dragon wound grease, which normally it's also kind of interesting in this game, but I'll talk about that in a second. But what it does is, of course, give extra damage against dragons. There's a blue stone, it's kind of nice. And I think there's a Sacred Order buff. Nice. Okay. Alright, so I can go with the Misbegotten Short Bow in the end. That's cool. And what's interesting about the Dragon Wound Grease, besides the extra damage to dragons, is that all of the greases, like this Lightning Grease, they basically give me a bunch of flat damage. And in like almost all cases for Iron Eye, that's beneficial. That's better than the Dragon Wound Grease, because Dragon Wound Grease, outside of the dragon bonuses, also gives you a 10% extra damage bonus, which normally sounds pretty good, and for a lot of different classes it would be pretty good, but most of my attacks are gonna be under 200 attack rating, which means I'm gonna get less than 20 from that 10%, which means that the flat damage from the other greases is better. The nice thing about a Dragon Wound Grease as well, though, is that it lasts for a minute instead of 30 seconds. So if you find the Dragon Wound Grease in any percent and you don't have use for it on that expedition in particular, it's quite useful to use it for, it's quite nice to use it for the castle, right? Because you have it active for a little bit longer as you're clearing everything out. All right, so we're making our way to the castle as usual, coming from the southern side, upgrading the misbegotten shortbow. And here you can see we have the orange aromatic, which is completely useless. We also have only Black Flame and Black Flame Ritual on that seal, so we do not have one of the seals that you can sometimes get, which has also Black Flame Blade on it. It's actually quite good on Iron Eye, at least for a little bit, because it gives you a buff for a couple of seconds on your weapon, but then your weapon deals percentage damage on top of your normal damage. You basically end up burning the enemy with Black Flame. And as Iron Eye, you get to basically reproc it all the time since you can attack so frequently. Right here, I tried to maximize the usefulness of my ultimate. I tried to hit as many targets as possible. Kitty is kind of chilling, so that's nice. Gives me a perfect opportunity to clear out these soldiers. And now I can... okay, I mean, yeah. Like...
Hey man, it's 2:50 a.m., you know.
I get that.
Just gonna let him do his thing.
This is what happens if you fall asleep at the steering wheel. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Well, that was a free kill. I'll take it. I'm not gonna complain about that. Ranged weapon attacks. That's very nice. What's interesting is what I found is also Sacred Blade. Now, it's not gonna be useful in this particular expedition, but if there was a Deathrite Bird, which there's a chance for that to still happen in the rest of this run, Sacred Blade would be kind of huge because it does exactly the same thing that I mentioned with Sacred Order, where you get that extra undead bonus. But on top of that, you can actually stack it with Sacred Order as well. So you get like 200% against undead, plus you get some extra flat damage from the Sacred Blade as well, and the Sacred Order, and like all of a sudden the undead enemies basically just drop. Like, if you ever look up some kind of a one-shot compilation from Elden Ring, there's a good chance that there's going to be some huge one-shot of a Deathrite Bird, because the undead bonuses can be stacked insanely. I don't think it's really supposed to be that way, but they've never bothered to actually, they've never bothered to fix it, so. Would be very, very nice if there was Deathrite Bird on top of the castle's rooftop, but I know that it's actually the Bell-Bearing Hunter. It's kind of annoying to deal with early on because he's very, very tanky. Like, all the other bosses are pretty alright. Bell-Bearing Hunter probably don't want to be doing day one. Depending on what the boss is, like, sometimes it's, yeah, Tree Sentinel is doable. Something like Regal Ancestor Spirit, not to be confused with our lovely host today. He is weak to fire, so using a Fire Grease, very good. And then there's that environmental buff that you can get from the castle. Whoa!
Oh, a raid.
We have visitors. That's actually very nice. Let me bait him over here. And yeah, you would be able to get a very quick kill on the Ancestor Spirit. So here you can see here's Morgoths. So the thing with Morgoth is, or the thing with this game is that there are these random events that show up sometimes. Now, unfortunately, not even these are random. They're also guaranteed by a map pattern. So if I had a keener eye, I would have been able to see that this is what's coming, because the website tells me as well. But what's neat about this, I don't want to die, because if I die, the invader goes away and I lose the potential bonus that I will get on victory. But if I win, I will get a buff where for every grace that I light, so every grace that I discover essentially, up to 20 graces, I'll get a 2% damage buff. So we can stack 20% extra damage from this. If I were to die, I would not have the ability to do that, and on top of that, I'd be taking more damage for the rest of the run. Sometimes casually, like I remember from some time ago, and also what other people have told me, it can be quite demotivating to get Morgoth on day one when you're doing your own thing. Then you die to him, and immediately you are cursed for the rest of the match, basically, with taking more damage. Ow. Good thing there's no gravity in this game. Well, there's gravity, not fall damage, though. That's what I mean.
Yeah, sometimes Morgoth likes to show up at the worst times if you're not expecting him.
Yep. And he keeps on following you. He will jump everywhere.
Oh, yeah. Well, can he even follow you while you're flying on a bird? Like, I've seen some pretty funny examples
I don't think
of
so, but I would assume that when you land, it does, yeah.
Okay. That would be great to just have him spawn in midair. A little aggressive, Morgot.
Well, other enemies can hit you when you're on the bird, though.
Yeah,
I've definitely been sniped by enemies before. Massive golem archer. I've been killed by Loretta's projectiles that way as well. It's, yeah. You gotta make sure you are safe when you are taking the Spectral Hawk. Alright, so looking at the map, we will be facing Valiant Gargoyle again, the second time that we are facing that, that night boss. This time it's going to be in the southwestern side of the map. Which means I'll have a little bit less time to make it over there. It's not going to be anything crazy, though. It's going to be in the same place where we fought at the very first expedition. We fought Bellbearing Hunter there. And normally this is kind of interesting, right? So because this is such a deterministic game, essentially, such a deterministic run when it comes to the time of the circles and everything, normally right now I would be able to make a call if I want to use an ulti for clearing this out or not, based on my timer, based on life splits when I'm doing PB attempts. Yeah. And I don't have it running right now, so I wasn't sure if I could ulti and still rebuild it on time. And you have a little bit of a passive build-up of your ultimate. But you also get it mostly by dealing damage. And so if I have to run to the circle and my ulti is on cooldown, well, I'm not really dealing damage to anything at that point, so... Always gotta make sure to keep it ready and not use it a little too late. Okay, so this is a little bit of a mess. I'll have to hurry up. I want to kill these guys because I want to loot these chests since I've killed all of the tanky banished knights. These guys die a little bit faster. Let's try to kill them. And yeah, I'll have to run. I'm not going to loot everything. Oh, there's a dragon wound grease. That's huge. Nice. That is very, very good. Don't do it. Oh, he did it. That's rough. So I'll have to try and recover those runes because I have 220k there on top of everything. But I'll have to also hurry up. So I'm not sure that that is doable because the circle's kind of closing in. Oh, that's all right. Level 3, here I come.
What'd you say it was Valiant Gargoyles again?
Yeah, it is Valiant Gargoyle, so luckily it's not a super tough opponent, so it should be all right. But I'll probably be able to survive a hit, but obviously I'm not going to be able to play as aggressive as I normally would be able to. Like, I'll have to make sure that I dodge the attacks this time around.
See, if that were me on like on a run, I would just restart. I'd be like, nope, not doing this one, man. So annoyed by like the untimely deaths as the circle's closing.
Yeah, it unfortunately this is just what happens in the game, right? Like anytime there's time pressure, it's
that's
it's
a
tough.
classic Nightreign situation.
Yep. Last enemy as well.
Yeah.
Out of all of them there. I got hit by the first attack, and then I don't know. I didn't think that he would hit me with the second part, basically, of the sword dance Ash of War that he uses. Actually, it's not sword dance. Sword something. Anyway, doesn't matter. But we're definitely missing a lot of power because with that 200k, I would have been like at least level 10, maybe level 11 even. See, this is annoying shield dudes. Usually what I like to try and do is get a backstab. Not always the easiest with the spear guy, though. The other soldiers, pretty alright, but spear guy, not really.
There you go.
We got the stat. He's still not dead. Yeah, the spear is particularly annoying because he keeps on also poking from behind the shield. Like, this guy's gonna do the exact same thing. I basically have to wait all the way for my ability to even have a chance. Let's make sure I don't get hit by the AoE this time.
Still pretty good damage for level 3, I'd say. I guess it's just all these buffs stacked.
Exactly. It just shows that, like, in the end, you know, the buffs are just not as the buffs are way more important than levels will be throughout the match. That's why it's important to try and loot as much as you can to give yourself the highest chance. But hey, we made it. We didn't die. I'll take it. Now let's make sure that we don't die on the way back. That could happen, because I'll be running outside of the circle, of course. Like, it takes a while for the circle to, for the night to dissipate, for a day to start. And of course, in the meantime, I'm still taking damage. I want to run out, because I want to give myself the biggest head start that I can. But if I forget to heal and I just die, well, there's 230k. We also have Sacred Order again, so you saw me use that with the claws. And then, I mean, to be fair, like, my passives are not too bad. It was just a little oopsie with that death. But I was just trying to push it as much as possible to try and loot the chests. That guy has them, dude. That is one rich knight right now. Like, dude, there's Bell-Bearing Hunter on top of the roof, but this guy owns the castle now. Like, Banished Knight is just a tenant. He is not the boss around here anymore. Right, let me get him while I can. There we go. Okay.
All right.
We have recovered our wealth. Let me see what is in these chests. Was it worth it? Attack power at low HP. It's kind of interesting. Attack power at low HP is potentially something you can use for the first night. Because, like, you're not going to have low HP on the Night Lord, right? So using it for night 2 makes kind of no sense. But in the first night, you can use the circle, use the enemies before the boss spawns to go low health, and then fight the boss basically with RTSR on the first night if you don't find anything better. And that's... I don't want to say it's super viable, but it's... Unless you have anything better, it's a potential strategy for sure, because the low HP bonuses are higher than the full HP bonuses.
It seems like it would be annoying to consistently set up your HP, though.
Yeah, it's not about... That's why I say you just use it for the first night boss, right? Because for the second night boss, you could set it up still, which is doable. But then for the Night Lord, you're not going to be able to set it up with anything.
Yeah.
So you would basically have like an inventory full of nothing, essentially.
Well, yeah, I guess you could use the Knight to set up your HP.
Yeah, that as well. The enemies and the Knight, yeah. Exactly. Okay, so I'm not going to pay Bell-Bearing Hunter or Wizard just yet, because I'm level 5, so that would be unwise. Instead, I'm going to head over down here to fight Zamor. Get a little bit of an easier target out of the way. And then he'll spawn a Grace. I can use that Grace to level up. And then we can head over to the rooftop, and then we're gonna have to make our way through the mountaintop. Because there's quite a lot of things to do in mountaintops. Same way that, you know, Crater was quite big. Mountaintop is as well. And if I want to collect the full bonuses, I have to go all the way through and kill the final boss there. And the final boss is the exact opposite of the Magma Worm, not just because he's a Frost Dragon rather than a Magma Worm, but Magma Worm very easy to kill as Iron Eye because you can headshot with your shotgun attack from up close. Borealis, most dragons, right, most dragons are weak to pierce damage, so I haven't mentioned that yet, but there are different damage types in this game. And Iron Eye's bow and his arrows, they're thrusting, which is actually quite good because thrusting can deal a counter hit. So if I hit an enemy during an animation, like an attack or a mistimed dodge, I will deal a little bit of extra damage, which is cool. And normally dragons are weak to that type of damage, which is, you know, that's good. However, Borealis is like the one dragon who's actually weak against strike, and he's heavily resistant against spears, against thrusting damage. So my bow is gonna deal like no damage whatsoever, and I'll have to use a different weapon potentially for it. So we'll see. All right, I'll get this environmental bonus. Do the skip again. Jump up here, and while he's chilling, I'll buff a little bit.
Everyone's worst nightmare, the top of the castle Bilberry Hunter.
Yep. Yeah, and it's like another reason that this guy is just weird is you saw that I proc the mark, and it did nothing. Like, I dealt damage, but I didn't stagger whatsoever, and pretty much like almost every other enemy in the game is gonna stagger with the mark proc. Not this guy. This guy doesn't care. That was interesting. You can see that I applied the mark, but at the same time, I still took damage even though I should have iframes, so got hit during some kind of a startup there. Trying to position myself behind him to maximize the chance for the shield bash attack. It's not guaranteed. It's just swinging the odds in our favor, yeah, to get that one. Barbarian Hunter dead, very good. Let's see what it gives us. Nothing really, but gives us a lot of runes, so that's good. We're already level 14. The circle is just starting to close in right now. Which, if I hurry up, I should be able to do everything that I need in the mountaintops. If I don't, it's not the biggest deal. However, before I proceed, I'll go to the merchant first. I want to buy a pouch. So I've done that before. I haven't really mentioned it, but the pouch that you can buy from the merchant, it gives me an extra inventory slot for consumables. I'll buy that. Right, so now I have 5 slots instead of 4. And what we are looking for is Exalted Flesh, because I used mine. So I need at least 1 for the upcoming fight. Or for the upcoming fight, and then we can again buy more of them. And then I'm also looking for Frost Greases, but Frost Greases I'm very likely to find because it's the Frost Mountaintop. And so this is like the optimal strategy that I would like to set up for Adele, is to get these anti-dragon bonuses from the mountaintop and then use the Dragon Moon Grease after frosting him at the very beginning of the fight. So with the Frost proc, I'm not only gonna deal that extra percentage damage, or to get the percentage damage proc when I proc it, but I'm also gonna be dealing 20%, well, roughly 20%, hey, there's the Freezing Grease, extra damage after that. So to a frosted target, you deal a little bit of extra damage, essentially. So that's the entire plan. And then, if I manage to kill Borealis, if there's Frost proc in near vicinity, I will also have extra damage, but that usually doesn't work on the boss because he gets Frost proc a little bit too far away. But that's sort of the plan, the plan. We'll see how it goes, of course. We'll see how it goes. I don't have the best damage, but given that I have the greases that I need, I feel pretty good that we'll be able to do that fight quickly. And that's important because there's a phase transition that happens where Adele basically spawns the Night Lord AoE all around him. And then normally the only way to get, around that is to just run away. But we obviously don't want to do that. The less running we do, the better. And you can see that this dragon is getting absolutely demolished because he's actually weak to pierce. I'll grab anti-dragon effect from it. That's the guaranteed trinket there, basically. And with this troll, I'm not gonna bother. He doesn't drop anything, unlike the trolls in the castle. And we're gonna make our way over to the back of the mountain. So again, just like with the crater, all of these enemies are guaranteed to be in the same places. So I know where the bosses are. I know where all the loot is. I don't know what the loot is. Oh my god, that's actually insane. So that's a little bit of less damage on that black bow, but it has frost on it by default. So I'm gonna frost proc even sooner. That's crazy, because a lot of times when you find some bow like this, it will have magic damage on it, and that's not good. We want to make sure that everything is physical, because if something is not physical, it is not gonna benefit from the Exalted Flesh or the Uplifting Aromatic. Those are all physical damage bonuses. But this thing is fully physical and has frost on it, so that's wild. And one of the great things, like, I'm still gonna use the frost grease at the beginning of the fight, probably? Maybe not. Like, maybe I'm just gonna go from Dragon Wound right from the start. But what I haven't mentioned yet is who we are facing for Night 2, and that is actually another duo fight, and that is Godskin, not Godskin, Godskin scare me, but it's Golden Hippopotamus and Crucible Knight. And those can be a little bit annoying, but if I'm able to have Frost, and on top of that, use the Grease at the same time, I hope that's how it works at least, then I'll have the Frost proc and I'll be able to deal extra damage as well from the Grease, which should speed up the Crucible fight quite a bit. Kinda need to test that actually, because a lot of the times, like some of the times, when you find a bow that has Frost on it, it doesn't have it as like a passive, like you can see there, but it has it just as a thing on the bow. For example, Albinaric bows from Albinaric archers in camps in ruins can sometimes have that, you know, so it wouldn't show up here, it would have a passive on its own. But I think it should still be fine with a Grease. Haven't been able to find any Exalted Flesh. That's a little annoying. Attack power at full HP is very nice. I'm absolutely gonna get rid of one of these drop-offs that I don't need. That's a slash damage that's also not good. Oh, I have Starfist actually. That's good. So against Borealis, that's actually perfect, because Starfist is one of the best weapons in the game in Elden Ring. It's a little bit worse in this version of the game because its charge R2 is a little bit slower. But this one has Frost on it, this one has Bleed on it. Has a really fast moveset. And it's Strike, which is what this guy is weak to. So this damage is pretty good. Obviously trying to do as many charge attacks as possible to get staggers. Because with a stagger I can attack the head, as you could see. It might... Okay, that was close. The bark just saved me there. It's one of the annoying AoEs. Stagger? Oh, come on! So the way staggers work in this game, just like in any of the other Souls games, is that there's basically this poise bar that the enemy has that is invisible, and you're building it up with your attacks, and then after a few seconds it starts to deplete. So that's kind of what happened there. I was like one hit away. All ranged weapon attacks 14%. What do I drop? What do I drop? Attack power at full HP 7, I guess. Yeah. Huge though. And it starts to basically deplete, and that's kind of what happened there, right? He did the big AoEs. I was one hit away from stagger. I wasn't able to hit there. So we ended up having to hit him a couple more times after that again. But in the end, the fight was just really, really good. Thanks to the power of the Starfist. Well, let's jump into the circle here. Don't really have time to loot. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find Exalted Flesh anywhere. So that means I'm not going to have it available for this fight, but luckily it's the item that you can buy before you enter the next, the Night Lord. So, from that merchant there. I get into the center here, make sure that the mobs spawn. Ah, they're not spawning. They should be spawning. It took a while. So we're gonna have to fight some misbegottens. I did drop their bow. So I'm not killing them with their own thing, with their own medicine. Where's the last one? Should be... Yeah, there he is. The guy with the most delayed attacks in all of Elden Ring, and that is saying something. Okay, Crucible Knights and Golden Hippopotamus, which is a hippopotamus, but he's not golden at all, so... It's one of the few DLC enemies. There's only 2 of them, actually, in this game. There's this fella, and there's also the demi-human Onzi. We haven't had the pleasure. So, everything applies here that I talked about with Crucibles earlier. Like, I'm gonna try my best to force the shield bash, then strafe it, get some shotgun attacks in. Now, second phase starts, because Golden Hippopotamus is getting involved. He's gonna try to grab me, and he does. That is okay. We'll survive. Get the Crucible Knight kill. Okay, I go down here. That is no problem. Now we get a stagger because of the Mark proc. Take a big riposte. There's a Frost proc, and we get the kill. Physical attack power, 9%. Unconditional damage. We'll take it very happily.
I'm interested to see how fast this one will be with all these anti-dragon effects.
Yeah. It's a little tricky. There's some execution here, so I'll try to position myself as best as possible, because if I do it correctly, I can essentially stand at such an angle that I'm hitting the head with all 3 of my arrows. So if that can be pulled off, it's going to be huge. But we'll see. As I said, I'll start the fight by using my buffs. I'm gonna apply the Frost Grease first. Wait for the guy to spawn. Try to frost him. There it is, already. Okay, he started screaming already. Which is kind of crazy because I haven't even marked him yet. Well, there, you wanted damage. There is your damage.
That is chunky, yeah.
He's not even going to try the phase transition. That's how fast we actually killed him.
Wow.
So, for a fight like this, I was keeping the ultimates because during the phase transition, I can use my ulti and keep it charging. Normally, the charge does nothing, but you can hold it for extra iframes, right? And so I was going to ulti through that phase transition and abuse the iframes there, essentially. But unfortunately, that didn't happen because he died a little bit too fast. But yeah, that was the 4th Night Lord, so I think we'll be taking a short break. Am I correct about that?
We will. You are correct. So we have a bit left in the run, but we're going to take a little bit of a break, a second break, just to refresh ourselves. So again, if you want to get up and... All right, welcome back, everyone. We are here back from the break. I just want to say thank you to everyone for supporting Games Done Quick with your subscriptions, gift subs, and bits cheered. Your contributions help keep our shows running. If you're enjoying the stream, consider subscribing for exclusive emotes, ad-free viewing, and access to chat during replays. You can always also support the stream by sharing the GDQ channel with your friends. But we are back with Kata doing Elden Ring Nightreign. Kata, you want to go ahead and take it away for us?
Absolutely. Welcome back, everyone. So we are ready to go after that last expedition. We can start the timer again in 3, 2, 1, go for the last one today. So this victory that we just got against the Dell means that we have defeated 4 different Night Lords, which spawns the final one that we can fight. So even though there are 3 other ones as well, we don't have to actually fight them. And we can go to Helster straight away, and then beating him will, you know, reach the credits and all that stuff, which is the end of the game. So, out of these 5 patterns on this Shifting Earth for Helster, there is one that I straight up, like, I don't reset the run but I have to quit out if I get it. So imagine that you're playing for like almost 2 hours, and then there's a 20% chance that you lose like 20 seconds for having to quit out and try again. And then you're trying again, you know, your luck. And if you're unlucky twice in a row, well, 1 in 5 again, and you basically lose the run.
But it's just one pattern.
Yeah. That is because one of the night bosses, the first one on that pattern, is Tibia Mariner. And Tibia Mariner is just insanely long no matter
super long,
what you do. Like, he spawns a bunch of skeletons, you have to shoot the skeletons, Tibia Mariner is very tanky. In order to keep the skeletons actually down in the dirt, you have to shoot them on the ground as well after killing them, so it takes a very, very long time. It's basically unplayable.
I've definitely had I've had that thought fighting them. Like, I don't see how anybody does this fight in a speedrun and has a good time.
Yeah,
it takes so long.
Basically the perfect antithesis of what we need.
Yeah.
It's a boss that moves around a lot. It's a boss that is tanky. It's a boss that has a lot of ads. It's really, really bad.
That makes sense.
Part of it is kind of gimmicky, like casually. He, you know, once he dies, he like summons this spirit deathrite bird, and he's able to hit the other undead as well, right? So you're supposed to basically get a little bit of help that way. But in a speedrun setting, like, that doesn't matter. You've already wasted pretty much minutes at that point. So luckily, that didn't happen. We don't have that pattern. Instead, we have actually the best pattern that we can get for this expedition, which is Wormface Day 1. So we're gonna fight Wormface again. We've already seen that. We know why that is good. And then we have Deathrite Bird himself for Night 2. So what I'm going to be on the lookout for as I'm going to this Mad Pumpkin Tunnel again to get myself a purple stone is I'll be trying to look for, of course, Sacred Order, but also Sacred Blade to get those big undead bonuses, because Deathrite Bird is susceptible to them. In the first tower, I was able to find a better white bow, which is nice, and I also did manage to find the blue bow as Pumpkinhead is going ham on this miner. Extra runes for me, I guess. But that bow actually doesn't really scale super well, I think. Yeah, Red Brand Shortbow is not very good. So even though it has a little bit more damage now, it's not gonna have more damage after upgrading. So I will not be using that one. I will stick with the longbow for now. Which means I'll also, for the first time, have to buy the blue stone in this entire run, because I haven't been able to get it here. Which is minus 6.5k, but not the end of the world.
Same strat, huh? Just castle.
Yeah, pretty much. So there's an interesting angle where I feel like I could have done that. You know what? Just to spice it up.
Oh, yeah?
A little bit. Yeah, I'll go for something a little bit different. So where we started is a camp that has also a chest. And that chest, if it's a starting camp that you are in, has a 100% chance to drop a stone sword key. And with a stone sword key, we haven't seen that. But that is normally like a very big meta strategy in Nightreign, actually.
Yeah.
I will have to get rid of one of these items. I'll just drop this thing off here for now. You know, stacking Evergels is huge with one of the relic bonuses. So that's what a Stone Sword Key can do. It can open up an Evergel. And in an Evergel, you have an enemy, a random enemy pop up. It's not fully random. It's also determined by the pattern. Well, never mind. The circle's coming in, so I guess maybe I can do it on time. I'm not sure. But the idea is to basically open the Evergel here, which I know will be Godskin Apostle, which, you know, you might be saying, hold up, Kara, they whipped your ass earlier. Well, they did, but this time he'll be alone, okay? So I would be able to kill the Godskin Apostle inside of this Evergel, and depending on which enemy is in the Evergel, like the more or less challenging they are, it doesn't really always add up, but you might end up getting like a decent amount of runes on top of everything. So you might see yourself, you know, getting like a 50k start, basically. So I'll try to do it. I managed to hit level 4. I'll be able to use the blue bow. after my grease runs out. I can use my ultimate and just try to rush this out. So the earlier also you open an Evergel, the less health these guys are gonna have when they spawn, right? If I open this guy on day 2, then he would have 75% and later even 100% health. But because I opened it really early on, he's only at 50%. And actually this kill is really, really quick. Yeah, he's dead already. Perfect. So I get, you can see in the top right, I get 30k from him and then another 20k from the trinket that he drops. So basically right at the start of the run, I have level 6, which is going to speed up the castle. And at the same time, it, you know, gives me enough money to buy a stone and everything like that. So it's great stuff. I should have done that immediately at the beginning, but I'm glad that you talking about the castle actually reminded me of it.
Yeah.
And you were able to show off a potential diversion.
I knew exactly. I was just, you know, helping you out.
Ah, I see.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
We won't tell anybody, though.
Sounds good. It'll be our little secret. What isn't a secret to me is the fact that this is going to be a Banished Knight castle. So what's funny is that there are 5 patterns, like I said, for Hellster, for every shifting earth, every expedition. And, ooh, there's a good aromatic there. Fantastic. Wait, what did I... Oh, I just bought a pouch. That's okay. We'll need that eventually anyway. But what's interesting is that out of 5 of those patterns, 4 are a troll castle, which you haven't had the chance to see yet. And only 1 is Banished Knights, and look who it is. Banished Knights again.
All Banished Knights all day.
Yeah, that 1 Crucible castle we had, but otherwise 4 Banished Knights castles. Yeah, one cool thing about kiting these particular halberd guys is that at some point they also just despawn, so they basically perfectly reset for me. I can hit them like once when they are teleporting back to their initial location, and then they have to, you know, again run towards me basically. So that's very neat that they have such a short leash range, unlike this guy. Oh, nice headshot. On top of the castle is Tree Sentinel, who's absolutely killable, especially now that I have level 6. So I think I'm gonna go straight to that actually after this triple chest. We'll get a bunch of runes. I can use a lightning grease, which... Oh, attack power at full HP, very nice. I can use a lightning grease, which he's weak to, because he's, you know, in an armor. Lightning usually pretty good against that. But this time, let's avoid the courtyard for now. Also, obviously, once I make it to the boss, I'm going to heal up because I have that attack power at full HP bonus now. Get these fire greases as well. They'll come in handy later on. And yeah, we have Blood Bowl aromatics at the merchant, which is huge. It's very, very good. Thing that is missing still is finding some kind of a undead buff. Oh, another skip. There we go. It's a little dicey, but we got it in the end. Can use the Exalted Flesh as well, get extra damage. Okay, put your shield down, dude. Oh, that's gonna hit me. Yeah, bad attack timing. So if I get this kill, it's still not really a big problem. I hopefully will have enough time for it. If somehow this death was like the difference between me getting the kill or not getting the kill, that would suck. But otherwise, it's not really a huge deal. And this is one of the dangers that I was talking about. The fact that at the castle, like pretty much everything in terms of the bosses is gonna one-shot you when you are there early, so. But luckily coming from this side, I at least can do the other skip. I can also get that environmental buff, which I was missing last time. Okay, 100% success rate on that. Very nice.
Yeah, you haven't messed it up once.
Oh, random headshot. My buddy Arunai is actually giving me a helping hand. And you can see, like, I'm playing this basically as a little bit of a hybrid between, like, a melee range and being a little bit further as well. Outspacing some attacks can be quite nice because then you don't have to worry about dodging as much. And at the same time, being melee again allows me to use that shotgun effect attack where I'm getting the 3 arrows into, well, his face or his body or whatever. Getting that extra DPS in, so that was good. Attack power at full HP purple, very nice reward. Alright, now we immediately gonna jump into the courtyard and try to clear this out. I don't know if I'll have time to kill everything here, but getting the kitty and these 2 knights will already be a good start. Kitty decided to peace out for a second. Oh, you can see how much more damage I'm dealing with those passives and stuff. And with the extra level. Alright, so I'll have enough time for the kitty. The rest will have to leave for later. Dude, it's not your fight! Alright. Didn't get anything out of that. That is alright. So we have our aura buff, we have our exalted flesh. Since we are fighting Warmface, I don't technically need the Blood Bowl aromatic, so I'm not gonna buy it yet. The reason for that is that the boss is so squishy that having more damage would save me like 1 attack or something, right? Like if I know that a fight is gonna last quite a bit longer, the difference between having 20% extra from Exalted Flesh versus 35% extra from the Blood Bowl aromatic will be huge over a long course. But over a short fight like Warmface, it's basically just gonna be 1 attack that I could save or something like that. Then we do have some attack power at full HP bonuses, so we need to make sure that I'm full HP, of course, before the boss fights. I'm gonna run over the Scarab as well, if we get some kind of a useful talisman. Not really, so we don't worry about that. Run to the Grace here around the camp. You can see the special icon on the map as well. That means this is a so-called condemned camp. There will be potentially an invader if I went there. Like basically I would get attacked by an NPC, which is one of the class characters. Could, for all I know, be an Arnai as well, but it's not guaranteed. It's not really worth killing them. Like they do give some decent runes, but in this mode it's not really worth it.
Would you be okay
made
with
it here on time.
One more set of announcements soon, Kata?
Yeah, after this boss fight will be a perfect time for it. I think I'll even keep the uplifting aromatic for this fight from being used in this fight, and I'll use it for a little bit later, like when there's either Hellstir, which is gonna be a pretty long Night Lord because he has 2 phases. I mean, technically he has 3 phases, I guess, in a way. That'll be a very fun fight, or maybe even for the Deathrite Bird, but for Warmface, probably a little bit of a waste of an aura buff. That said, maybe I'll be lucky and find some aura buff elsewhere, so you know what? Let's use it. Let's use it. Let's get that power. So yeah, we are full HP, and yeah, I get that more damage exactly. So uplifting aromatic, salted flesh, fire grease. Doesn't matter if I use fire or lightning on Warmface. Step a little further away so I can mark into him and be right next to him. Oh yeah.
Oh, just barely. Didn't get that last hit.
Yeah, that was pretty much that one more hit maybe that the Blood Bowl aromatic would have, you know, allowed me to save, but then it's like, okay, I saved the second.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, let's hear it, Rigo.
Okay. So, Frame Fatales is a community of women and femmes who share a passion for speedrunning, gaming, and charity. In addition to their 2 flagship events, they host activities year-round in their community Discord, like Game of the Month and Randomizer events. Type !FF in chat to learn more and get involved. Also, Games Done Queer is coming up October 31st to November 2nd, highlighting queer and LGBTQIA+ runners benefiting the Lambda Legal Defense and Education Fund. Prize submissions are open until October 25th. If you'd like to donate a prize, visit
we're heading back to the castle. The reason for that is I'm gonna head over to clear out the courtyard. And I'm also gonna clear up this upper part where all the chests are, where we unfortunately died last match. But I'm gonna make sure not to do it this time. We also have a much higher level this time, so it should be a lot more difficult to die, even though it's starting already.
Yeah,
and then we're gonna head over to
earlier.
Yeah, exactly. It's the hero, dude. That's why I'm focusing him. There you go. Revenge. Revenge. Yeah, then after that, we're gonna head over to the mountaintop as I'm getting stagger locked here and comboed. And this time, we don't have to technically kill Borealis. So, like, if, you know, I don't need him for runes, I don't necessarily have to kill him because I'm not gonna be frosting really many targets. Not gonna be frosting a Deathrite Bird. To get a bonus from that, I'm not going to be frosting Hellster. He cannot be status affected at all. So, for example, for someone like him, you know, the Rivers of Blood that we found earlier would be completely unusable. You can see there the drop-off was pretty brutal. I dealt 2 damage. Yeah. That's not what you want to see. Alright, clear out these 2 parts, and we will jump into the courtyard. So one interesting thing as well is that for some reason, unlike in Elden Ring, where turning the camera is pretty nice and smooth, in Nightreign, unless you have your analog stick at like a perfect flat angle, basically on the X-axis, your camera turns around so much slower. It's really strange, and they haven't fixed that.
True. They did fix, I think they fixed the really difficult lock-on switching. I think that's a lot better now.
Yeah, you are correct. That was another thing as well, which is, you know, as I was saying earlier, like, yeah, this is built on an old version of Elden Ring, but like those issues were never in Elden Ring, like at all. I'm not sure where it comes from, but basically when you did a diagonal input to switch targets on an analog stick, it wouldn't register. Like, it either had to be up or down, basically. So that's where a lot of the difficult switching came from. That it just wouldn't really register the input. Very strange. And one thing that I also should talk about that I haven't really mentioned is that if you play Nightreign, you know that you can also get relics between, so the meta progression between the games. As in, you get them as rewards for the games. You've seen that in some of the post-game screens. Particularly after the second Night Lord, where we took a break. And those, however, are not allowed to be used in any percent. So in any percent, we can only use relics that are guaranteed in the shop. That's why I purchased these relics after the first expedition, and then didn't look back, didn't change my relics, didn't bother checking relics or anything like that. The main reason for it is that there's one particular relic, which is the Evergel stacking relic that I alluded to earlier, which is just so much better than anything else that if you had runs where you basically don't get it after the first expedition, like, you might as well reset, because anyone that has them after the first one would be so much quicker and have so much damage over you. So in order to minimize the randomness, yeah. That's why.
I imagine it's also a little bit easier for verification because you could totally like edit the relics potentially. Isn't that an issue that was a concern at the beginning?
Yeah, that's definitely a thing as well. I mean, editing relics is possible, and it's still a little annoying in a way that the game works like this. Because for the other type of runs that we have, which are Night Lord runs, individual level runs basically, there you are allowed to use any relics, right? And because the relic system is so bad in this game in terms of like getting the stuff that you want, it's very unlikely that you would get like god tier relics. Hold on, I'm checking if the polybow it's the same one. Okay. Doesn't matter. This one has attack power at full HP as well. I don't even know why I was questioning that. But yeah, you can use any relics that are possible to obtain within the game, but obtaining the god tier relics is so unlikely that what we have done in order to basically have like a category or a type of run where you are trying to do the third one, where you're trying to maximize speed at all costs, essentially, is that we allowed people to go ahead and edit their relics, but we need to use a validator, essentially, right? Because what you can do with that is you can make relics that are normally not possible in the game. Like, for example, stacking magic damage 3 times on a relic, right? A relic has up to 3 slots, and you could do something like that, but that's normally not possible. So when we are verifying these IL runs, we always have to make sure that we look at the player's relics, that they show them in the submission, and we look at them, run it through the verification tool, and if they're valid, you know, then the run is good.
I see.
And it's one of those things where, like, it would be a shame to not utilize the relic system in at least some way, because it's part of the game, and there are some cool bonuses that you can get, and that can give you a lot of extra damage or some other opportunities of how to, like, play the game and stuff, right? So we wanted to make sure that that was represented too. But for any percent where you're doing multiple expeditions in a row, and a one relic that you find will have impact on potentially 4 of them, yeah, it will be a little bit too much.
I know there's also a particular, I think there's 2 legendary weapons that, like, are theoretically really good to get, like, early on. Aren't those also not allowed for any percent runs?
They are not allowed just in general, for ILs as well. It was especially for ILs because grinding for them there would be quite a bit easier than any percent. And that is the Grafted Blade Greatsword. So that would be the legendary weapon from Elden Ring, from the Leonine Misbegotten. And then also the Marai's Executioner Sword, because they have been nerfed in the Deep of Night patch, the patch that came right before it. But up until then, they had no cap in the bonus that they have. And the bonus that they have is you get extra stats per every single enemy that you kill in a match, basically, right? Up until you die. So if you manage to keep it deathless, which you probably will in a speedrun, an IL speedrun especially, you can stack up to like the 100%, 200% extra damage. And so that means not only is a person that finds that very rare drop super advantaged over someone who doesn't. I mean, that would be okay, that's the name of the game, but the most advantaged position is finding it super early in a match, right? So if that happens, like, you gotta have basically unbeatable runs. So per community demand, those weapons have basically been completely outlawed. It's not great, like, you basically, you know, you cannot use them at all, even if you find them and they have a good passive, well, you're out of luck. But it makes sense to punish, like, the 1% of players that find them rather than the 99% of players that don't.
Yeah. You always need to make sure your speedruns rule set is just, like, an enjoyable, like, speedrun for the people to play, you know?
Yeah.
Or else no one's gonna run it.
Exactly. Like, ILs are, you know, relatively popular. Any percent not so much, because in the end, we are doing similar stuff, similar things like 5 times. The runs can change quite a bit, depending on which bosses you are facing and which buffs you have available and stuff like that. But in the end, you have noticed, same strat basically in the early game. Get that purple stone, go to the castle, clear out the castle. So it's not the most popular run for obvious reasons. It's quite long too. ILs have had quite a decent amount of activity, and I think the way that we set up the rules is also to be thanked for that, because it makes it a little bit more fun for people to run. Anyway, I absolutely agree with what you said. Like, it's always a little bit of a fine line that you have to tread between, like, purity of the speedrun and, like, making sure that you don't have to download all kinds of tools to make the game, you know, runnable, versus actually making it an enjoyable speedrun that people want to compete in.
Yeah.
All right, so we're making our way through the mountaintops. We're gonna be fighting Onzi. I did say last time that we didn't have the pleasure, but we obviously fought him, like, in that same expedition a little bit earlier. Just in my mind, this is also a boss that can show up on the very first expedition with the demi-human chief. And we didn't have it, so I was like, yeah, we didn't see this guy, but of course we saw this guy.
Are there any mountaintop specific buffs that are useful for this holster expedition?
No. Because as I said, the only other one that you can get is like extra damage on a frost proc, and the dude's doesn't status effect at all.
Right.
So
yeah,
clearing it out essentially for the runes, clearing out for the items, and unfortunately, I do have to say I have to go to the merchant actually. Kind of forgot about that. Which is okay, because there's actually a merchant right in this thingy. We'll see if we have time for that. But I need to see if I forgot if he had anything against undead enemies. I don't think he did. But anyway. Let's see. Probably don't have enough time for it, but that's okay. That's just sometimes what happens. These things are relatively difficult to keep track of, especially when doing full commentary like this. At 4 in the morning. I have to look at the clock real quick. In a full run, you would obviously pay a lot more attention to like, oh, there's this stuff from a merchant and stuff like that.
Well, we appreciate having you here at such a late time of the night.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to showcase the run as well. Yeah, the merchant's gonna be now outside of the circle. It's not that big of a problem in the end. Of course, we still can take this time to at least try and loot some of these items then, see if we can find a decent passive that we can equip. Ow, jump. That was less likely to be targeted. Not really useful in this particular instance. Bloodhound Claws, also not really. Oh, I do have Sacred Order at least. That's nice. I forgot that I actually got that. Oh, ranged weapon attacks. Nice, nice, nice. Very good. All right, so that actually works out quite well. Let's make it now to the circle. And we are going to use these Venomous Fangs against the undead that are going to be spawning. And the Deathrite Bird as well. If we had a little bit more time, could have, obviously, killing Borealis is just one drop, so it's, for the time, it probably wouldn't be worth the investment, because I'm already level 15. Could have killed the trolls here as well for a drop. Those are a little bit faster to kill, but in the end, we managed to clear out basically the rest of everything, so. Okay, let me apply this buff. So I will deal more damage to these undead now, and I was saying earlier that you normally have to hit them on the ground to keep them dead. Well, not with this buff as well. So you can see, like, I'm basically able to just hit them, deplete the health bar, and they're not on the ground as they normally would be. Alright, full HP. And what other buffs do we have? So none to use, but we will be using a Lightning Grease, because we have 4 of them, and we'll use Exalted Flesh. Reapply the buff. Actually, I guess I can't really use grease because this is on my main weapon now, so no greases. Should be alright. This is solid damage, I would say. What do you think?
Pretty good. I don't know, I heard this boss was hard.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure in another life. All right, well, we take those. I mean, that was great. So that was basically all the extra damage that I have from my passives, and then on top of that, the insane undead bonus from Sacred Order, right? So on top of that, the Mark proc and stuff like that. So we just absolutely demolished that boss. Beautiful. Great. He got to do nothing. Got a stagger with the Mark proc as well, so fantastic. All right, and now we're entering the final fight. This is going to be the first phase, so I'll make sure to reapply my buffs. We'll use Exalted Flesh, and in the first phase, he is weaker to fire, so I'm going to use a Fire Grease on my bow. Okay, I already got past the HP threshold where he staggers and uses his other weapon as well. Kind of interrupted him from a good attack, but I just have so much damage right now. that he's not really getting to do much. Fantastic. So we're going to be entering phase 2. I will reapply my buffs again. And for phase 2, we want to use lightning grease. I'll start the fight by doing 4 shots and then use my mark to dodge the first scripted attack. Do 2 more attacks. Dodge this annoying AoE. Try to stay up close to be able to do as many tap R2s as possible. Okay, another mark proc. And he's entering phase 2 too. Gonna go up in the air. I have a little bit of time to reapply some buffs again. I can Q through this. I ended up getting hit, but that's all good. We marked him anyway. I can use my ulti. Then I'm gonna get down because he didn't stagger yet. That is okay, because I dealt so much damage that the poise wasn't built up yet. Use my mark again. And boom, there it is. All right.
Nice.
Well, that was the last Night Lord. And now the biggest time save that came from the last several patches. Normally there was this entire section where you had to run towards an NPC to roll the credits. Now we'll go through this white screen. I open the menu, I click skip, and that's time. There are the credits.
That was quick.
Yeah, that was good. That was a very nice last fight. Of course, getting downed, lost a few seconds, but in the end, that's not as important. The damage from the passives was very good, and the game plan overall worked out. So yeah, not bad, not bad.
I feel like that was pretty good RNG in general. Some like, you know, mishaps, like there's a certain Godskin duo fight, maybe, and one hero soldier in one of the particular nights. But in general, that seemed like a pretty good run. What do you think? Yeah,
I agree. I mean, in a almost a 3-hour run, things like that are bound to happen, especially when you are trying to make it entertaining and explain it to people, besides just trying to be as fast as possible. But other than that, dude, like patterns, basically no bad patterns. Pretty good passives for the most part. Sometimes we are missing a few buffs, but yeah, like overall, when you think about how many random elements there are to this run, like yeah, very, very good, I would say.
Nice. Thank you so much, Kata. I was actually like expecting us to maybe go a little bit over the allotted time for the show, but you had such a good run that we're actually like right on time. That's amazing. Good job.
Thank you.
So do you want to give us, your shout outs, tell us where people can find you, all that good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So feel free to follow me on Twitch at CatalystZ. The Z is silent though, okay? So don't call me Catalyst, but nah, I'm just joking. But yeah, CatalystZ on Twitch, and also feel free to check out my YouTube. I've got some really cool stuff there. I think I make highly produced videos about speedruns of Souls games and other cool things as well there. So feel free to check it out. I would appreciate it, and I think it will be worth your time. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Thanks a lot for having me, Regal. It was a pleasure. I was really happy to showcase the run, even at this ungodly hour. Somehow we kept the energy high up, which is great. Yeah. And I'm still looking forward to bed, but yeah, it was a pleasure.
Oh, it was great. And, we appreciate you so much for being here. I've been meaning to get you on the show for like the last year, and I finally got you on, and it was a blast. You're the best.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, that's going to be all for this week's episode of Game Over. It's on a bit of a different day, on a Thursday, but we do have another show coming up on Monday, which is our normal time. So if you want to watch more Game Over, make sure you come for that on this upcoming Monday. But that's going to be all for us. That's all for me, your host, Regal. But make sure you stay tuned after the break, because we're going to have another Hotfix show coming up after this. Think Fast is going to be coming up afterwards. So make sure you stay to watch that. Otherwise, that's all for me. Thank you so much for watching, everybody.